Hello, hello, hello. How is everybody tonight? Hopefully my microphone is working. Hopefully nothing is goofed up like last time and the time before that and the time before that and the stream I had for the RFR over on the line the other night on the 4th. Right when my part started, my XLR fell right out of my microphone, and I'm like, I shouldn't have fiddled with that before I started the stream. But anyway, how's everybody tonight? Let's see, who do we have here? I've already said hi to a few people. Pandora Pinata, welcome. Good to see you here. Yeah, got to keep those bloodlines pure, baby. How else are you going to have a functioning royal family if you don't, breed just brothers and sisters and just keep all that holy purity in there? That definitely won't go wrong for multiple generations of people living under monarchical rule in the Middle Ages. Never went bad there. But no, good to see you, Pandora. Pragmatic Crystal, as always, thank you so much for shilling my shit. Thank you, and it's good to see you here. Saw you in an earlier stream, Jefferson Spatchcock stream. Yeah, said hi to you over there. So good to see ya. What do we got here? Phantom X11. What brought on this subject, if you don't mind me asking? I ask because it came up last week, and that frequency is weird to me. Well, to answer your question first, we had I was on the line on the Sunday show this last Sunday with Matt, and we had a call from a guy named John, and we're going to actually be reviewing that call tonight because I rewatched it, and I think I did okay in certain parts, and there's other parts where I was like, man, I missed some good opportunities to really not only show John that he and I are actually of the same position on the subject, of the same opinions about the morality of it. He just doesn't realize it. So anyway, we're going to go over that, and we'll replay the video and watch it and do some other biblical research too, because I thought there was only 4 mentions of incest in the Bible, or at least four direct and implied mentions of incest in the Bible, but there's actually more than that. So we'll hop into that. So anyway, that's what happened there. And it also, yeah, same here with me. Like sometimes, this happened to me a few times in my life where I'll hear somebody talk about something, and then all of a sudden that topic keeps on popping up in conversation. Not even ones I'm like directly in, but just nearby, I'll hear somebody start talking about things. Or sometimes there's been a couple times, like especially back in my 30s, I would hear a new word. This is like during my deconversion process. I was doing a lot of studying and research, and I would hear and learn a new word. And all of a sudden I'll start hearing that word everywhere. And I'm like, was my brain always just filtering this word out whenever I heard it? Or is this just like suddenly happening? So yeah, kind of like a weird, what is it, Mandela effect kind of thing. Like, did I change reality thinking, learning something? But no, probably not. Probably just my brain is now wired to pick up on that word. Like, oh, I know that. I've been listening or talking about that or learning about it recently. Yeah. Hey, Tsunami. What? Yeah, this is going to be a fun night tonight. I was sitting there making the thumbnail, and I was like, incest, is it moral? And I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm going to have to put in a little disclaimer. So I put in the rest of oh God, what am I doing? I just want to play video games and eat pizza. Speaking of which, I'm on a keto diet again. I go on keto about once a year. I tend to kind of go up and down with my weight. I oscillate between like 170 and 200. So when I start approaching 200, I'm like, okay, time to turn this ship around. So I started my keto diet last week. No carbs, virtually no carbs, and no sugars, no beer. So man, I am pining right now for a good beer and pizza. But yeah, I wish I was doing that instead of doing this. No offense to you guys. Great to have you guys here. I could talk to you, but I don't want to talk about incest, but I have to. I can't let this go. Magic of Joffo, welcome. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about Yo and Me. Yeah, that's a great song. What else? So yeah, it was just this last Sunday. We're going to be going over tonight, but you can also go back and listen to the Sunday show with me and Matt. The first one, there's now 2 Sunday shows. There's the one that starts at noon Pacific Standard Time, and there's also now the one that starts at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and that's like the Sunday show after dark. Yeah, good stuff. I'm now considered a full host on the Sunday show. So I now do both primary and secondary like co-hosting. So last Sunday I was a co-host and Matt was in the driver's seat. The week before that, it was the opposite. Matt was the co-host and I was in the driver's seat. So yeah, getting used to that role, learning more about it, becoming much more, I think, relaxed with the whole thing. I was a nervous wreck on my first appearance on the line because I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. Because talking in front of 2,000 people, 2,500 people, and it's like, there's a very, very real fear of public speaking. And the fact that I'm here in my comfy, warm room, I'm in like my pajamas right now, is very nice. But still, it's like, talking in front of that many people, there's a very real fear there. And I think that kind of stems back to not a professional opinion, just my speculation. I think it stems back to our sort of tribalism back when we were just, nomadic tribes. Doing anything that gets you cast out of your tribe is almost a death sentence for you. So embarrassing yourself, doing the wrong things, hurting the wrong people. So I think public speaking is kind of one of those things where public embarrassment, public humiliation, or at least the potential for public embarrassment, the potential for public humiliation will lower your chances of getting a mate, lower your chances of staying in your village or your tribe, and you get kicked out. And like I said, virtually a death sentence unless you can find another tribe to bring you in. Totally not a professional opinion, just my silly speculations. Who else we got here? Cut ties with your captor. Wave. Yeah. Hello. Good to see you here. I don't know. Have I seen your username before? I have a terrible memory for names, but it's good to have you here. If I haven't ever talked to you before, good to have you here. Cut ties with your captor. James Apperson, welcome, man. Good to see you. It's been a few weeks, I think. Okay, and then I think we got just about everybody. So let's talk a little bit about what's this question here. What? You're doing that wrong. You're supposed to be to imagine your audience in their PJs. Damn, that's what I was doing wrong this whole time. The one time, the largest crowd I ever spoke in front of, like real time, in person, was about 2,500 people. It was actually my last. It was the last presentation I gave as a Jehovah's Witness in front of a congregation. So I was so Jehovah's Witnesses, I think they still do it, but it's been a while. Cool. And the Theocratic Ministry School is just a program where they teach you to public speak because witnesses would self-train on how to go out door to door and like speak to others effectively, emphatically, use gestures like I'm doing right now with waving my hands, making eye contact with people, and avoiding ums like what I just did right there. And that's all done locally in congregations. But every year they have larger conventions, namely the Circuit Assembly, the District Convention, and then they sometimes will have like a regional convention, which is like a huge thing. But I gave a Bible reading in front of 2,500 people at a district convention. And it was the last presentation I ever gave as a witness because I was already on my way out at that point. And it was strangely liberating, like it was strangely like free knowing I was on my way out, but I was given this Bible reading anyway because like I just didn't give a shit anymore. And counterintuitively, ironically, I nailed it. Like every single word I read, nailed it. Didn't misspeak anything. I didn't have any awkward pauses. Just ripped through that flawless reading, and it was like mic drop, and I was out. And it felt pretty good. That was 15 years ago now. And I still remember it quite well. Anyway, Maya's here. Where's Maya? Hey, Maya. This is an odd subject for a stream. Yes, it is. And it was an odd subject for a call last Sunday, which is what we're going to be going over. So, but yeah, so we're going to be talking about that. And so this is full of transparency. This is more of a conversation on morality and how we come to determine whether things are right or wrong, good or evil. This is going to be this is going to be based on a call on the Sunday show from a guy named John. He called in, and my troll detector was kind of going off. Matt's definitely was. My troll detector, I'm still calibrating and learning how to trust better. But it felt like this John guy was calling in to get just some sound clips from Matt saying, yeah, incest is okay. So he can turn around and turn that into like a YouTube short or a Twitch thing, or not Twitch thing, a TikTok thing, and get some cheap views and go, oh, look, Matt condones incest, But it did open up a conversation where uh, I feel like I clearly laid out our case that incest in some cases, in some context, is fine. In others, it's not, but in some contexts, it's fine. And laid all that out. We'll be going over that in the video. But of course, his name is John. He was from the UK, probably British. I saw a lot of comments saying that they believe that he is Muslim. Uh, but Muslim, Christian doesn't really matter because both of those religions rely on the Torah, I believe. Christianity definitely does. I believe Islam does as well. And they all rely on the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, which is where a lot of the mentions of incest in the Bible are had. So both religions rely on that. So we can still talk about that. But anyway, that's what happened the other night. Anyway, let's kind of start digging into this. I'm going to open up a Wikipedia article, and we're going to talk a little bit about incest in the Bible to see exactly what's in there. And then we'll go into the video and talk about my argument for why some cases of incest is fine. John, of course, was not on board with that. He was trying to basically imply that blanket across the board incest is wrong. But hey, what about in this holy book? This holy book has some mentions of incest, and how is it viewed in Bible times? So let's go into the good book here. Actually, the good book called Wikipedia. And so hold on here. I hate this one default layout. I want to go to the better layout. Come on. There we go. That's the better layout. Because this layout over here, nope. That layout there, like I'm way off center, and that bothers me. That's better. So I don't even know why that one's a default. Anywho, okay. So incest in the Bible. So just to get terminology out of the way, I'll go with the terminology here on Wikipedia. Incest in the Bible. Let's embiggen this so you guys can see it. Then, okay. Incest in the Bible refers to sexual relations between certain close kinship relationships which are prohibited by the Hebrew Bible. These prohibitions are primarily found in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. And then we can actually go down here. And there's a really nifty chart here that shows how Leviticus and Deuteronomy prohibit certain sexual relations between family members. So grandfather's wife, grandmother's. We have father's wife with a mother or a stepmother. And we can see how red here means that it's the relations highlighted in red are those that are prohibited. So not really clear cut, because we see that the spread here is actually fairly all over the place. Father's wife with the stepmother, Leviticus says, yes, prohibited, even Deuteronomy. But father's wife with the mother, Leviticus 18 says prohibited, but Leviticus 20 doesn't. We can come down here to, mother-in-law, same deal. But then, down here we have aunt, uncle's wife, mother's brother's wife. And then it's just no mention, no prohibition. So you can get an idea of kind of just how all over the place the whole thing is. And yeah, thanks, Brooklyn. Thanks for giving it away, Brooklyn. This was going to be the culmination of my entire presentation. The Bible essentially says that incest is okay as long as the God says so. And he says, no, it's no. No, it's not. The God changes his mind throughout the biblical account. So yeah, so I don't know. So here's the thing. So you'll have lots of Christians say, well, no, God doesn't change his mind. But there are certain cases of incest that God commanded. And because God commanded it, that those cases are okay. Those cases are moral. And this is really what Christians, this really comes down to the objective morality that Christians claim, because the objective morality really just boils down to do what God says. Everything else is not important. Nothing's a factor. Stabbing babies, if God didn't tell you to do it, stabbing babies is bad. But if God did tell you to do it, stabbing babies is good, which means stabbing babies has nothing to do with the goodness or the badness of it. It's whether or not God told you to do it. And so I'm probably going to do a presentation on that here, I think, pretty soon. But yeah, this is basically the culmination of the whole thing. And in the video, when we go over this, essentially this, like God in the Bible, God commanded incest. In fact, God took advantage of incest uh, for his plans. And if God had a plan and the incest was part of the plan, then God planned to use incest. So how could that be immoral if God is using that as a tool for his goals? Um, I'm sure some Christian will say, "Oh, well, God can go ahead and use evil for his goals," but why would God plan to use evil when there's other methods that are not evil to achieve those goals? So we'll kind of go into that. But anyway, you get an idea here about what's going on there. Some of the cases of incest in the Bible that I do want to mention. Uh, well, there's the implied ones. So the easy, low-hanging fruit ones are Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were created human beings. They didn't have belly buttons because they were not born. I don't care what the pictures say. And they had children. And them and their children were commanded to be fruitful, become many, and fill the earth. So it's unavoidable that firstborn generation had to have incestuous relationships in order to start reproducing. Unless God, not mentioned in the Bible anywhere, created even more humans to avoid that incestuous relationship. But as far as we have in the Bible, doesn't say anywhere that God did something like that. In fact, I think it explicitly says that, after Cain murdered Abel, Cain took a woman and went off into, Canaan land, Canaanites. Yeah, that's where the Canaanites came from, I believe. So it's safe to assume that's his sister that he took, either a sister or a niece. I don't think it was Eve herself. But yeah, so we have Cain in the Bible, and that's because that Cain's a murderer. Cain, we don't care about Cain. Well, it's gonna be the case for all the children, all the descendants of Adam and Eve, that first generation. They're gonna have the same issue. And then God wiped the slate clean with Noah, and back to square one. And now the same exact issue all over again. You now have Noah, his descendants, his children. They all have the same issue. They all have to start either marrying and having sexual relations with siblings or first cousins. It's unavoidable because Noah's kids came through with him on the boat. They all had wives. Their descendants had no choice but to either marry first siblings or first cousins. So, but what about some of the more kind of esoteric cases? Well, let's talk about Lot. I think everybody knows about Lot. Let's go and switch the tab. I'm going to bring you over here to Bible Gateway, and we're gonna read some of the good book here. We have Genesis chapter 19, verses 30 to 38. So for context, this is Lot and his daughters. They have fled Sodom and Gomorrah because Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed because of, funny enough, sexual immorality as depicted in the story, but that's kind of a tangent. Or that's kind of another rabbit hole to go down. But anyway, they're now hiding out in a cave because they were in an area called Zoar, but they were afraid to stay in Zoar for reasons, and I don't remember exactly what. But let's read these 8 verses and let's see what happened here. So Lot and his 2 daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar. He and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. One day, the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man around here to give us children, as is the custom all over the earth. Let us get our father to drink wine and then sleep with him and preserve our family line through our father." That night, they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and slept with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down and when she got up. So somehow, blackout drunk, like that's a lot of wine. The next day, the older daughter said to the younger, "Last night I slept with my father. Let's get him drunk. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight. And you go in and sleep with him so we can preserve our family line through our father." So they got their father to drink wine that night also, and the younger daughter went in and slept with him. Again, he was not aware of it when she lay down and when she got up. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The older daughter had a son, and she named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites of today. The younger daughter also had a son, and she named him Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites of today. So, Jester, that's a great point, and that's one I easily overlook. The rape story that defined what happened. Not that he got drunk and forced himself upon them. Yeah, that's a good point. Like maybe this was massaged because I mean, well, I don't know. So I don't think these people actually existed. But yeah, it could be like maybe there was like an editor down the line, like we can't have Lot come on to his daughters. No, obviously they came on to him. They're the women they're I mean, women are the fall guys, the punching bag of history when it comes to the Bible. It was a woman who introduced sin to Adam and Eve. She's the one that was deceived. She's the one that talked her husband into it. I could definitely see that. Pure speculation, but yeah, it's yeah, that Jezebel spirit. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Tsunami. You got the right words there. Um, but anyway, so in the Bible, Lot to his death is regarded as a righteous man. But here's the funny thing: uh, members of the Moabite nation are in the line of Jesus, in the lineage of Jesus. That means Lot and his daughters are in the lineage of Jesus, and that also means that the incestuous children between Lot and his daughters are in the lineage of Jesus. Um, So, you could potentially complain here and say, well, there's other lineages and we don't have to worry about that. Or, this was just God using just an unfortunate evil that occurred for his purposes. Or you could say that uh, uh, because Lot was the righteous guy in this situation, he obviously is free from blame. All he did was got drunk and his daughters took advantage of him. They could say that it's okay. It wasn't really incestuous because Lot wasn't really he's not responsible. He was drunk, which of course would not fly today. But you can imagine Christians saying that. Well, let's talk about Lot's cousin. I forget their relationship. But it's yeah, actually I have it here somewhere. Let me find it. Uh, so one tab I didn't have open, so I have to find it. Oh yeah, if you're in the audience and you want to call in to talk, or you want to talk about your beliefs or your thoughts on the subject, feel free to pop in. And we haven't really made any callers last few streams, so feel free to just come on in and we can have a conversation. And in fact, let me update that. Let me update that link because that link is incorrect. Save. Bam. So we'll just have an open mic night tonight. Why not? Feel free to come on in if you're watching, and we can talk about this. Anyway, I'm trying to find it here. It's Abraham and Sarah. I mean Sarah. So Abraham is the ancestor of the Israelites. He is like the focal point. Like he's the man of God's prophecy and purpose. It's through him that the Israelite nation was born. And so Abraham was married to who? Sarah, who was his half sister. So right there, and that wasn't a drunken relationship. That wasn't anything like devious, like we saw with the case of Lot. This is Abraham and his half sister as a married couple. They were old, and they didn't. I don't think they did have a child. How'd the story go? I should have researched this before I started the stream. I think it was Sarah. Was she and Abraham were getting on in age. Sarah was concerned that she was not going to have a child because she was past childbearing age. But hey, no, we got the prophecy. The prophecy says that Abraham's going to be his seed's going to be as numerous as the sand. He's gonna breed a mighty nation. All these things. So Sarah basically said, "Hey, well, I'll take my my maidservant, handmaiden or servant, Hagar, and hey, have a child with her." So uh, already we're in an incestuous relationship, and now we have a concubine involved, extramarital uh, uh, affair here, albeit it's permission and sanctioned and stuff like that. I mean, they were both on board with it. But anyway, it was through Hagar that Abraham had an offspring, and I think if my memory serves, Abraham and Sarah did actually have a child even after that, and that was I can't remember, but I think that was it. Something like that. But anyway, incestuous relationship, concubine. stuff that Christians would definitely shake their finger at today, say, no, 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 that's all immoral. But wait a minute, this is all done to fulfill God's prophecy, explicitly explained in the Bible. This is to fulfill God's plan. How could any action used to explicitly fulfill God's plan be immoral? According, asking the Christian that. So it doesn't, in these cases, you have, like we saw in the Wikipedia article that there are cases, Leviticus and Deuteronomy just simply says no to incest. Incest bad. But we have cases here where incest is used by God, used by righteous people, is part of the very lineage of Jesus. So I think a Christian or a religious folk would have to admit that incest, and also talking to Adam and Eve and Noah, incest in some cases is okay. It's moral because it's fulfilling God's purpose, fulfilling God's prophecy. Um, so that was John's biggest hangup, is that when he called in, he was taking on this air of, I can't believe you're saying incest is okay, as if he was saying the opposite. And I think he might have said it at one point or another. I think he basically said that, my God, I have objective moral position that my God says it's immoral. But John, your God doesn't say it's immoral, at least not in all cases, according to the wiki. And your God used it to bring about Jesus. So I'm wondering, and these are things that I wish I had mentioned to him on the call. I think Matt and I did talk about this a little bit after the call, that, hey, we have mentions of incest in the Bible. And then I was like, Dodoy, why didn't I think of it during the stream? Lesson learned. But anyway, so we're going to start going into the call after that and kind of like taking all the stuff we just talked about and plugging it all into the conversation. So anyway. But anyway, yeah, so that's it's kind of our preliminary, prep work for that. Let me take a look and see who has stopped by to say hi. Anybody new? Brooklyn Low the Skeptic. Yep, I think I mentioned you earlier. Hello. The Bible story is one of the most cringy. They date rape their own father. Yikes. Yep, they absolutely did that. I wonder if they like roofied his drink, his wine or something. Like they put some myrrh in there or something like that. Easy way to kill a person if you don't know what you're doing. I mean, alcohol and drugs do not mix. Of course, I don't think the story happened, but the idea of the story is like, ugh. And how desperate would you have to be too? Like these are three people in a cave. They just, from their perspective, their cities was literally burnt to the ground by God, with everybody inside of, burning alive. They were in a foreign nation. I guess they were scared of going anywhere else. And I guess they were thinking they were going to live out the rest of their lives in that cave. But what if both the daughters had boys, which they did, but those boys then went out and found other mates to have? Like, what was the problem there? I don't understand. Like, one generation later, like maybe 15, 16 years later, those boys went out and found wives and founded new nations. So why couldn't they just go out and find husbands? Oh, maybe cultural, religious contamination because they're women and they're weak-minded. And obviously, if they go out and they mingle with the men of the nations, they'll get pulled away from, this one true religion. I don't know. It's probably some type of misogynistic ideology in there of the writers. I mean, these writers are Bronze Age savages, basically. Yeah. So Abraham is Lot's uncle. Thank you so much. And yeah, now that you say that, my memory is like, yes, that sounds right. Yeah, Abraham was Lot's uncle, and Jesus's lineage can be traced back to both of them, because there's Moabites in Jesus' lineage, as well as Abraham being a direct ancestor. Yeah, I think she was like 90, but you got to remember they lived longer back then. Tsunami. I mean, we had Methuselah, 900 something years old. Noah's probably, I don't know. Noah's probably 400 years old when he died or something like that. Something silly. Speaking of which, is it down there? Let's actually pop in. There we go. So actually, if you look down at my thing right here, I did a little bit of math. I'm only 1% incestuous as far as I know, because it's according to the Bible, according to Bible numerology, only about 100 generations between us and Noah, like 80 to 120. So I averaged it out to about 100. So if only one generation of that was incestuous, I am 1% incestuous DNA, baby. So yeah, that's That's what that comes from. And that means all of us here is as well, at least. I can't speak about all the other generations because I can't even count back 3 generations of my family. I don't have any family records. So who knows? Maybe I got all kinds of incestuous pairings in my bloodline, and maybe that's why I'm so goofed up. Anyway, all right, let's get back to this. So let's go into the call. Why not? So let's make sure you guys can see it. I was still also reading through. Let's get rid of the chat. Bye. There we go. Actually, let me finish looking at the comments here. So yeah, so thank you, Cut Ties with your captor. Thank you for that. And then yeah, Tsunami, I think it was 90 something. It's pretty high up there. Jester, Lord of Fools, welcome. Good to see you here. Hey Al, how you doing? I comb my hair today just for you, Al. Hi, Gold Earl, welcome. I've argued this topic on Reddit several times. So fill me in on that, Earl. Did you argue that it's okay in certain cases? And then maybe the religious folk was like, nope, it's always bad because God says it's bad. And when they say God says it's bad, they really mean that I feel like it's bad because I find it icky. And because I'm made in God's image, God must find it icky. So therefore it's immoral. Anyway, I'd love to hear about that. So yeah, Al Trucker's here. Nava, welcome. Welcome. Oh, hey, Earl found it. I enabled memberships on my channel. I have one membership tier and it's 99 cents because I feel like that's all I'm worth. But no, I only do this for the fun. I'm not here to make money or anything like that. That might change one day. I mean, if one day my channel like really takes off, I highly doubt this will happen, but that 1% chance that my channel takes off and I'm like, wow, I can make like survivability levels of income off of this channel, then I might change things. But until then, I'm just here for the fun. I want you to be here for the fun. So the tier is there's only one tier and it's 99 cents. So yeah, you can do that. You can also go to my Patreon and become a free member. There's paid tiers if you want, but I don't care really. Just become a free member. You can get access to the posts and stuff like that. Start pumping those numbers up. But anyway, yeah, cool. I killed Earl. You're my first member ever. So thank you so much. Yep, got my channel memberships. And can you guys see this? No, you can't see this. But anyway, yeah, the first emoji I got is just my icon down there, and that's the Skeptics and Scoundrels thinking, or me pretending to think, because that's what I was doing at the time. I was pretending to think. Yeah, I'm gonna do more emojis. In fact, thank you for reminding me. I'm gonna make probably a poll tonight, and we'll have some people. Actually, not even really a poll. Just put it in the chat what kind of emojis you would like to see, and we can see what happens. Think it looks like Prague's leaving for the night. It's probably late over there. Yep, you are the very first. Good job. You found it too on your own. I didn't even mention it to anybody earlier. I just put it down there. I was going to see who saw it first, and you being the perceptive person you are, you got it. Oh yeah, my cartoon from Paul. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but yeah, the Apologia thing aired. And the funny thing is that he emailed me like a day before I gave you guys that poll, asking me what Apologia, asking what I wanted to have drawn. I put it up to the poll with you guys, and I was like, and I got the result. And then the very next morning, before I could talk to Paul, he published his video, and he already drew me. So anyway, here we go. This is me and Paul right there. So I'm now cartoonified on Paul's channel. I am super duper enthused about this. This is really cool. I started listening to Apologia about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I started listening to Apologia and loved his channel. And then November of 2022, he had a Patreon members only live stream. If you have the private link, you can see it, but it's not a public stream. And I met him for the first time. I was there for like an hour and a half talking. And I think it was that stream that when I came out of it, I was like, you know what? I think I want to start doing some content creation. So a month later, I made my channel. And then about a week after that, my one big video like got a shit ton of views. And thanks. And the shit ton of views I got from that video was thanks to a Godless Engineer for plugging my video on his channel. So that drove a bunch of like sudden traffic to the video. it just took off. It got 100,000 views and got me like my first 3,500 subscribers. So anyway, that was quite the adventure. But anyway, that was a year and a half ago. Apology, I think, is kind of the one that got me like into doing content creation. Yeah, and then cool. Yeah, if anybody wants to call in, I'm hearing there's J-Bon. Yeah, you know, like maybe can I pin the link as well? It's also down in the description. Yeah, here we go. So I'll pin it. I have to do it over on YouTube because I don't think StreamYard allows you to pin things. So boom, there. And then we'll pin that message. Anyway, anybody can go ahead and just call in. It's not just Christians or theists tonight. Anybody, we can have a panel. We can talk about this call. Hey, Jester, thank you so much. Second member, thank you so much. And yeah, no problem, J-Bon. Feel free to pop in. Okay, cool. So let's get to our video here, and we'll start talking about what's going on here. Okay, well, John's already. Is this John? J-Bon, John?
Yeah. Hey, it's John.
Hey, John. This is John from the call, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? You know what? It's absolute coincidence that I've literally logged in and I've seen John, he, him, UK. Were you playing my video, my bit or something? Or?
Oh yeah, we're actually just about to start talking about it. So this stream tonight is actually inspired by that call you had with me and Matt. Did you just get here? I've been streaming about 40.
I literally just got here now.
Oh, okay.
It's Eric, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Shall I tell you why I remember it's Eric? Because Matt was not very pleasant. He was effing and blinding. And you were really nice. You were really nice.
Well, thank you. We both have our styles, and I think both of our styles are good in certain situations. But no, I can understand how some people are a little off-put at Matt getting cantankerous sometimes. I like it. I find it funny and interesting, but I can understand how some people don't like that. But
can I ask, Eric?
Absolutely. What's up?
What inspired you from my call to talk about this topic?
There's a few factors there. One is that it's a funny topic to talk about because it's such a like kind of cultural taboo, and like there's like an ickiness factor around it. And it was just an interesting thing to like it was an interesting topic to prompt kind of a greater discussion about morality. How do we come to whether or not something is moral or immoral? In the call, which we'll go over here in a little bit, in the call, you said that you basically get your objective morality is basically divine dictate from your God. And then I was on the other side of the fence saying, well, my morals come from a consideration of potential harm done as well as some other factors. And that's how I determine what's right and wrong. But anyway, and then the third thing was, which I just talked about before you got here, that actually the Bible, you know, I'm thinking, are I didn't ask you in the call, are you a Christian? Are you Muslim? What would you call yourself when it comes to your religion?
I'm not a Christian.
Not a Christian. Okay. Do you accept parts of the Bible as true? Like the first 5 books, like the Torah?
I think there's a lot of beauty in the Bible. I think there's a lot of beauty in the Bible. Okay. In the language, etc. I've just come off a mammoth call with another atheist, and
right.
Can I just say, it's such a coincidence. I am glad that even if it's in a bad way or a good way that you're talking, the fact that I spoke to you last time has led to this topic being discussed, because that word that you used, icky, is a word that, no pun intended, stuck in my mind.
Yeah,
it really did, because as a theist, I'll tell you, because I subscribe to the faith of Islam.
Okay.
So, you know, I've just got off a mammoth conversation with an atheist. I was like, look, there is no point. I flicked through your stream, the 42 minutes that you've been on. I've not watched it all, obviously, but I know you talk about scripture. But I don't think I would hesitate, right, talking about scripture to an atheist.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
You wouldn't hesitate to talk about scripture to an atheist?
No, I would hesitate to talk to an atheist about scripture.
Okay, why would you do that?
Let me give you an analogy, right? I would hesitate to talk about combinatorial mathematics to a primary, someone in kindergarten, because you have to understand the fundamental concepts in mathematics to appreciate combinatorial mathematics. Now, it doesn't mean combinatorial mathematics is not easy to understand, but you have to have layers of understanding. And it's not complex. The layers itself aren't complex.
Right.
But
so are you basically saying, I don't want to put words in your mouth. So you're basically saying that you don't want to talk about scripture with an atheist. When you say an atheist, you're basically talking to me right now, because I don't have the fundamental understanding to understand what's actually going on in those scriptures. Like I'm not informed enough to understand what's going on in those scriptures. Is that kind of the gist of it?
Not that you don't understand the English text, right? It's the fact that the only way we can talk about scripture if there is a lot of assumptions. So exactly, and in mathematics, when you talk about a proof or whatever, you say, let's assume this. These are the premises. So if you assume the premise of a God, if you assume the premise of this kind of God, there's no point me talking to a Trinitarian Christian if I believe in one God. Does that make sense about their biblical scripture?
I wouldn't say there's no point to it. I mean, because I'm perfectly capable of putting myself in the shoes of my interlocutor. Like I can try my best to see things from their point of view. Now, I can't relate to things. At least I can't relate to things like Muslim faith or Muslim personal revelation from like Allah. Like I can't relate to those things because I'm a former Christian. I had those things. I can relate to those things on the Christian side, but I can't do that on the Muslim side. But I don't think that prevents us from having a conversation about anything or even talking about scripture. Okay,
let me give you an abstract concept then. So, in as humans in Islam, the belief is that humans, right, or children, or just humans in themselves, right, have an innate sense of what is right and what is wrong, right? There's a concept called fitra, Fitrah. Okay, that is an innate sense of what is right and what is wrong. So if I drew scientific comparisons, we have a animal brain and a higher level functioning brain. Do you understand that?
Sure.
So, and we have an innate sense of what is right and what is wrong.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that we're right and wrong all the time.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I agree. I agree that we do have kind of an innate, like instinctual thing about what's right and what's wrong. I agree that it's built into all humans. When I say built in, I mean like baked in, like it's a part of us as life forms, as beings. So I can get on board with everything you say there. I just think the source of that innate morality is different than what you do, and I think that's kind of where the core disagreement is.
So where do you think your source is from?
My thoughts or my morality or my innate sense of what's wrong?
Where do you think the source of that?
Oh, the source. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's primarily from evolution, because we have If evolution is true, and we have, numerous, almost countless generations of predecessors before us, ancestors before us,
Yeah.
behaviors that promote our survival, our ancestors that had we're a social species, so ancestors that cooperated, didn't wantonly kill each other, didn't steal from each other. These things promoted our ancestors' survival. And as such, their offsprings would tend to pick up those traits. Offsprings that didn't pick up those traits or picked up the opposites tended to be weeded out of the gene pool because they were either antisocial or they were put down because they were murderous or too much trouble. So it's essentially just a product of evolution that beneficial aspects of us as a species, beneficial actions, would become ingrained into us as kind of instinctual, the same way we see with like dogs and other animals. They have like instinctual behaviors, and even non-human animals have moral behaviors. We see it in the rest of the great apes. We see dogs have it. We see even mice will have empathy and will help their fellow mice, and they'll help share food and things like that. So I think it's just built up traits and instincts over many, many, many generations that promoted our survival, and that's what we call it today morality. So
But that video that you've got on the screen, interestingly, I actually watched that whole conversation again.
Yeah.
Not purely because I don't think that I think coming on a live stream, right, talking to someone who doesn't share your beliefs, and then not reflecting on that. If you don't reflect on the conversation, it doesn't make any sense, right? Because if you're a bigoted person, you'd be like, okay, I believe I'm right. I've said my piece, and that's it. So I watched that again, and there was a point where Matt said, the theory that we have proved evolution. Now, I wanted to, when I was watching it again, I basically wanted to say out loud and scream out loud, the theory of evolution has not been proved. And that's why it's called a theory. It doesn't mean I do not understand the concept of natural selection.
Sure.
My understanding of, when we were talking about genes and alleles, etc., I have a deep, profound understanding actually about RNA, DNA, etc. And
Right.
I remember misquoting you about endogenous bacteria.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It said it was endogenous retroviruses, but yeah, I mean, that's an honest mistake. Yeah.
Yeah. Lamarckian theory. I don't have, I can understand where it's coming from.
But before sorry, go ahead and finish your point, but I wanted to rewind just a moment to a previous statement you just made. But before you get too far, I want to do that. But anyway, continue your thought and go ahead and finish it.
No, it's fine. Sorry.
Okay. So the comment you made about how evolution is not proven, and it's not proven because it's still referred to as a theory. Do you think gravity has been proven?
Has gravity been? If we want to go down this route, we can.
Well, no. I'm trying to. Well, okay. Let me just get straight to the point there. Are you aware that the word theory in science is used very differently than colloquially in like kind of modern day parlance? Like
you're
theory.
You're talking to someone with a significant science background.
Okay, so you're saying here, you said that
I understand the distinction between a hypothesis and a theory.
Okay, perfect. And so and just, I'm not trying to treat you like you're a kid. I just want to touch base with you to understand exactly where you're at. Because I've had Matt's had this happen, and I had it happen a few times where somebody tells you, yeah, I'm a scientist, and they're not really a scientist. So I'm just trying to gauge exactly where things are at.
No, but let me explain something else to you, because when we were in school, we studied about atoms, right?
Okay. Atomic theory, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Forget quarks and forget matter, antimatter. Let's just simple proton, neutron, electron.
Yeah, atomic theory. Yeah.
Yes. So did you know that actually the electron, that subatomic particle, has not been proved. There is not a scientific proof for that. Did you know that?
So with scientific discoveries, you don't have scientific proofs. You have experimentation and then theories that explain the evidence. And then repeated experiments can confirm or falsify those things. There's no like
Yeah, no,
scientific proof like we have a mathematical proof.
Well, exactly. And that in the same way, that's my response to your question about gravity.
Okay. So by your understanding, which I hope I'm accurately understanding here, when you say, well, hold on, John, let me finish here. So you said, well, the theory of evolution is not a fact, it's not proven, but we can say that for literally every other scientific theory there is: gravity, atomic theory, germ theory, the whole field of science. Theory is the highest graduation point of any of these ideas. So if you want to say, well, evolution is not a fact because it's just a theory, then we can say that for literally everything in science.
No, but if you're talking to a purist here, right? You're talking to an Englishman who is got a science background, who is a purist. Okay, I understand there is a specific distinction between an hypothesis and a theory.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand that that in mathematics there are proofs. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There are proofs. There's a thing called mathematical proof.
Yeah, they literally prove. They literally prove the mathematical equations, and they literally proves the thing it's trying to prove. It becomes undeniable because you can see the proof. Yeah, in mathematics.
Yeah. So the difference, the language is very important, right? Because in science, there's a philosophy of science, of course. Science is a very broad subject. We understand what facts are. Facts.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then in science, we understand what theories are. Right.
Right.
So
can you tell me what a fact is in science or what a theory is in science, just so I can listen to what you're like, just like, what is a fact and what is a theory in science, according to you?
Okay. Sodium plus chlorine will give you sodium chloride.
Okay, and is that an example of a fact?
That's an example of a fact.
Okay, give me an example of a theory.
Would you accept that?
Sure. You can say, I mean, like the same way I can say that, change over time occurs in species. That's a fact.
Okay. So,
and then, do you have an example of a theory?
Well, theory of relativity, right?
Yeah. Okay. So, but like, what is a theory though? Like, you pointed to an example.
Okay.
Like, what is a theory?
Do you want a definition of a theory?
Yes, please. In science, in the context of science, not just colloquially, because colloquially it can be corrupted in certain ways. A scientific definition, like the definition of a theory in a scientific context.
In a scientific context.
Mm-hmm.
I've given you one, like the electron.
Well, no, that's an example. I'm asking for the definition of the word.
Okay, well, let me give you the definition. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, right. John. Eric, sorry, I'm calling myself.
I got a feeling John's not your real name, which is okay, but it's fine. So while you're doing that, I'll fill in the audience. Actually, I'll go through some comments in the audience while you're doing that, John. I want to give you a chance to look up your definition. Eddie Dean. Oh, Ember showed up. Hey, Ember, how you doing? Actually, no, that's Ember. Sorry, I'm all mixed up here. There we go. Ember, that's right. Eddie, Jesus folks showed up a lot in the first book and the last, especially. But hey, Ember, good to see you here. Eddie Dean, welcome. Good to see you. Evolutionary traits are how I explain morality and ethics. Yeah, I think just beneficial behavior that promotes our survival becomes instinctual, and we, as modern day humans, with our modern day philosophy, we call that morality. Let me see here. Who do we else got here? Chrysolaro Krizolakzar Razkalurzik says, my instincts also tells me that Islam is wrong. LOL. Got Ryan Murphy. I intuit and find it compelling that Islam is wrong. So we got some instinct. That here's the thing though, like this is actually goes to my point that I was going to make as we get into the video.
Can you do you want to play the video?
We can, but do you have that theory, or are you still working on it?
I put it in the chat because I'm on my phone and I can't.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Maybe you can read it out. Or do you want me to read it? Do you want me to read it out?
I can go ahead and read. I don't think here. What I'll do is I'll copy and paste it into the actual chat so everybody can just see it. I'm not sure this is definition.
No, this is an example. You gave an example.
Yeah, right? I'm asking for the definition of the word though, like the actual definition. I'll still put this in the chat. So folks in the chat, this is not the definition he was looking for. He looked for another example. But yeah, so I mean, so John, I understand you said that. Sorry, you're breaking up. What was that?
I've given you the definition of a hypothesis and a theory.
Well, okay. I'm sorry. What's the definition of the theory? I guess that's what I was asking for specifically.
A theory is a principle formed to explain the things already shown in data.
Okay. That's pretty good, I think. So the way I define theory, which I can adopt that definition right there, but a theory in science is a framework and a collection of all of the observations, laws, facts, and explanations for a certain phenomenon. So, for instance, germ theory of disease, which I would hope that, John, you believe that germs exist and germs can cause infections and make us sick and even potentially kill us. There's a whole theory, there's a whole framework of observed facts and laws and other things around that we bundle up, and we call this the germ theory of disease. And it is, being a theory in science, it is the highest graduation point for any idea or collection of ideas in science. There's nothing higher than that. It doesn't go from theory to proof. There's no concept of that in science. So same thing with gravity, same thing with atomic theory, and also the same thing with evolution theory. That doesn't mean that it's set in stone, proven true. It just simply means that it's currently the best explanation we have for all the given facts. So what you can do is you can maybe split the idea of evolution into two concepts: evolution and the theory of evolution. Evolution is a fact. And when I say fact, I'm talking about like what you were talking about with fact earlier. It's something we observe and we can confirm happens. Change in species, change over generations occur. We've done it directly with experiments with bacteria in labs. We've witnessed it with our DNA. We can look at our ancestors and look at the changes that have accumulated over DNA.
This is really important, Eric.
Okay.
Because I accept that what you can observe meaning with your own, through science experiments, okay, and then conflating the idea and going back in time when you could not perform those. So,
well, no, I think you might have missed my point there, John. I'm saying that we have DNA from previous ancestors. We have skeletal remains of our ancestors, and we can look at those and look at what we are today, and we can see that a change has occurred. We can see that, even just 40, 50,000 years ago, the bones of our ancestors are a little bit different than us today.
No, but do you still accept that is a theory? That is not a fact.
Okay, so this goes back. I'll answer your question there. This goes back. We need to divorce the theory of evolution from evolution as a fact. Evolution as a fact is just simply we've observed change in species, period. We've observed change in species. The theory of evolution is taking the fact of evolution.
I'm sorry.
Let me finish. I understand you disagree, but let me finish so you at least you understand my point here. Evolution is an observed fact. Change occurs in species. Now, the question is, how does that change affect everything else? How much change of that change accumulates? Does it add up to a lot of stuff over time? Does it really do nothing over time? Like, what's the question with that? So we take the fact of evolution that species change, and we have other observations. We have the genetic record. We have the fossil record. We have various other things. We put all that together, and that becomes the theory of evolution. It explains how life diversified on Earth over a long period of time. So evolution as a fact is just observed change, while the theory is the explanation of how it has affected us over deep time. Excuse me. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's really important to appreciate the distinction, because it's very like in that conversation. There are if you want to talk about fossil records, Eric, right? We can actually have an in-depth conversation about fossil records and the the big time. I can get my laptop out and have this conversation right now, because there are massive missing fossil records. Okay, and what happens?
I agree with that. We're missing a lot of fossils. I do agree with that.
We're missing a lot of evidence. If there was a continuous chain, right, of evidence, then there is a point where a theory would become a scientific fact. A simple fact.
So John, right there, I think you're completely missing what I'm just told you about what a fact is versus what a theory is in science. You cannot, the fact comes first and then the theory comes after. You don't have theory first and then fact. It goes from hypothesis to fact collecting and observations, and then after multiple rotations through the scientific method and then peer review, then a theory is born, and the theory is the final product.
Can I ask you some specific questions about the phraseology that you used?
Sure.
What did you mean by "we have observed species changing"? What did you specifically mean by that?
Okay, so when you have two animals and they love each other very much, they have a child, all right, or they have multiple children in many cases, many animals. Those offspring have differences in them. Their differences are in the DNA, and those differences come from, one, the combination of the two DNA pools of DNA, two genes before, into a new blend, plus mutations or copying errors. Those are changes that creep into the offspring. Now,
why do you refer it to as a copying error?
Because that's exactly what it is. We have little mechanisms in our body that copies our DNA and copies our genes, and sometimes they copy them one at a time. We symbolize them with letters, even though not really letters, but they copy those letters.
Yeah, why do we talk about it in a scientific way? Because it's
hold on. John. I'm answering your question. Don't railroad me with another answer. I'm answering the question you asked originally. Copying errors creep in because the chemistry and the mechanics behind it are prone to an occasional error. So you have a mistake made in the copy, and the new genes are slightly different. So that there, even though it's on a microscopic, almost imperceivable level, a change has been made to the offspring, and that's evolution. And if you do that over many successive generations, some of those changes are beneficial and will propagate throughout the species because they're beneficial. And some of them are not beneficial, and they will tend to make those offspring die because they're not beneficial. They could be detrimental. For example, if a rabbit in a snowy environment is born with darker fur because of a mutation, they're going to be more prone to getting picked off by predators. So those mutations will get filtered out by natural selection, while the genes that say make the fur even whiter and more blend into the environment will propagate and move on. Do this over many thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years, and these changes add up, and that's how you get the different species we have on the planet. That's the theory of evolution. And it's taking, I'll finish up here and I'll let you talk again. It's taking that original observed fact that between generations, a species will change ever so slightly, but that change is there. We can measure it, we observe it, we can see these things directly with our science today. And the theory of evolution says we take that fact, we put it together with some other facts, and now we have a theory that explains how we have diverse life on the planet. Go ahead.
I understand what you've said. When we talk about DNA and specifically meiosis, or mitosis in genetic theory, okay, it's really important not to conflate what is a scientific fact with what is a theory and
Yeah.
what is a hypothesis. I understand your point about the color of.
Are you saying that I'm conflating fact, hypothesis, and theory here with my explanation? Okay.
No. I'm saying that, you know, you talked about a copying error.
Mm-hmm.
When I studied genetics, when a man and a woman love each other, they have 23 chromosomes each. They combine themselves to 46, and that after successive stages of mitosis, you have a new human being. If on a specific gene there is a fault, say let me give you an example, okay? So when glutamine is and valine exchange in, say, for example, sickle cell anemia, that's why you get that disease, right? Because of that specific because of that specific genetic change. All right. So what happens is you get sickle cell anemia. The thing about sickle cell anemia, right, is it's a disease. Do we agree that it's a disease?
Sickle cell anemia is a disease, yes.
Yeah. But
genetic
the thing
disease,
is,
even, yes.
Protective for malaria.
Okay.
Did you know that?
I'll take your word for it.
Right. So when you talk about copying errors, it's not a copying error, it's a substitution. So it's a specific word, a substitution of one base pair for another base pair. The thing about
but these are
that.
Go ahead.
The thing about if you let me finish, the thing about that, I don't disagree with that part. If you have a tall man and you have a tall woman, and they copulate, the likelihood of you having a tall offspring is quite high. I understand natural selection in that respect, but it doesn't detract away from the idea that there are massive gaps in the theory of evolution for people essentially to be brainwashed that we have originated from endogenous bacteria. As a scientist, I am talking. So I am talking about as a scientist.
Okay, I got a few issues with that, but I'll let a lot on the slide. But here's the thing. So, first of all, the endogenous retroviruses that we talked about. Did you get a chance to look that up? Since we're talking about genetics.
I know what it is. I just misquoted you.
Okay. You just used it again. You just said we descended from them, and that's not what endogenous retroviruses are. You said endogenous bacteria, I think.
That's the distinction I'm trying to make.
Okay. Well, before we move on to that, we'll talk about that here in a moment. But let's rewind so we don't move on too quickly from the point that I made about facts and hypotheses and theories. Can we agree that the theory does not come first in science? The theory is the last goal in science. There's nothing beyond that in the scientific context. Like
there is. I disagree with you.
There's no fact of gravity coming after the theory of gravity. There's no fact of germ theory coming after the theory of germ theory or the theory of germ disease. There's nothing past the graduation point from theory, because this is a scientific context. The word theory does not mean best guess or hypothesis or anything like that. It is the highest graduation point in science in the scientific context. You aren't, like I said, you aren't going to get the fact of gravity.
I'm sorry, I disagree. I disagree with you, because a undisputable scientific fact.
Is gravity an undisputed scientific fact?
No, I've given you an undisputed scientific fact.
No, I'm asking you directly, is gravity an undisputed scientific fact? I have a pen. I just dropped my pen.
Yeah.
Now it's now on the floor due to gravity.
No, I don't want you to. I don't.
Hold on. Please answer the question. Undisputed scientific fact, right? The pen. right? Just fell to the floor due to gravity, right?
Will you let me explain my answer?
I want you to answer my question, please.
I will answer your question.
Okay.
In my way. Please let me finish.
It's a yes or no question.
It's not a yes. Please let me answer the question.
Yes, a yes or no question.
Is there a scientific proof for gravity?
We just explained earlier there's no proofs in science like that. You're
okay. Do we conflating... accept? Do we both accept that, right?
There's no proofs in science. Yes.
Yeah. Do we accept?
So now I just answer your question. Please answer mine. Is gravity an undisputed scientific fact? I can do this again, but we should know what this is going to happen if I drop this pen again. Is gravity an undisputed scientific fact? Yes or no?
In my humble opinion, yes.
So then why don't scientists call it the fact of gravity? Why is it still gravitational theory?
No, let me explain to you. There's don't conflate gravitational theory with gravity.
Don't conflate evolution with the theory of evolution. I'm serious. Like this is exactly the point I'm trying to make to you. Evolution and the theory of evolution are two different things. Evolution is the observed fact. The theory of evolution is the explanation using the fact of evolution for a lot of other stuff. Like you actually touched upon the truth right there about the matter.
No, this is the nuance than this, Eric, because the thing
I agree there's nuance, but I'm sorry, John, I don't think you're getting that nuance. Okay, go ahead.
Let me explain it. Maybe I need to do some more reading about it, right?
I would recommend that.
I'm not a physicist, okay?
What kind of scientist are you? Can I ask you what kind of scientist are you?
I have my background's in biomedicine, okay?
Biomedicine, and you have a degree?
I've got 5 degrees, man. Okay.
Yeah, 5 degrees. Okay.
Yeah. So, and they're not all in science.
I'm concerned about the science ones. Like, how many science degrees do you have?
Yeah, I've got 3.
Yeah, 3 science degrees. Can I ask from a university? Was it an online school?
No, it was from a reputable university.
A reputable, like accredited.
Accredited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm just asking questions because I mean, I'm not. If you are a scientist, I want to believe you and I want to respect that. But like the stuff you're talking about, the stuff you're talking about with like proving a theory, that's not a concept in science. A theory of something is the highest graduation point of an idea in science. The facts come first, and then the theories come after that. Not the theory, then the fact. Like there's very basic things. I'm not even a scientist, and I know these things. I have a computer science degree. I have a bachelor's in computer science, so I can have a job as a programmer, and I know this from just my general study. Like,
so what's the scientific? What's meant by scientific proof?
That's something you brought up. There's no such thing as scientific proof. I think I've said that like 3 or 4 times now. There is no such thing as a scientific proof.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, what were we talking about? We're here to talk about incest. So anyway, but okay. So back to the original conversation here, then, John. You said you are you follow Islam. So do you think that Adam and Eve, the depiction of Adam and Eve in the Bible, you think that was a true story? Like Adam and Eve were actually like the first created humans? Is that something you accept as true?
Say that again. Sorry.
Do you believe that Adam and Eve were directly created by God and they were the first human beings on the planet?
Just before I answer that question, I'm giving you the definition of what a scientific fact is.
Okay.
Okay. A scientific fact is the result of a repeatable, careful observation or measurement by experimentation or other means, also called empirical evidence.
Yeah. I don't feel here's the thing, though, that there's no proof in there. There's no mention of proof in there. I agree that there's scientific facts. I agree there's scientific theories and hypotheses, but there's no such thing as scientific proofs. And that was what I said earlier.
You hear me? Because, Eric, I'm flicking through Windows whilst I'm researching. So,
I hear you. Yeah, that's fine. I heard you this whole time, yeah.
And forgive me, because I don't remember these definitions off the top of my head.
It's okay. I'm sure other scientists have that same issue. So anyway, back to my original question though. Adam and Eve. Do you think Adam and Eve were directly created by God?
Do I think that Adam and Eve were directly created by God?
Yeah, because I can tell you, like back when I was a Christian, I accepted Genesis 1 that Adam was created first, then God created Eve using Adam's rib, and they were the first human pair, and they were commanded to be fruitful, become many, and fill the earth. Like I accepted that as a Christian. I don't accept that anymore now because I'm an atheist, but I'm asking you that question now. Do you think that that's a true story?
No. Oh, well, let me give you my answer. I am. Did God create Adam? Yes. Did God create Eve? Yes.
Okay. Why do you think that that's true? Out of curiosity, because I'm not familiar with the Quran or the Hadiths, but I'm pretty sure that there's no mention of Adam and Eve in there. That origin story.
No. Listen to my words very carefully, because I'm being very particular with my language. Okay.
Okay.
God created Adam. God created Eve. Okay.
Okay.
That's it. The thing is, as a scientist, right? You when you explore the wonders of science, right? The wonders of science, it makes you. For me, the most convincing argument is the cosmological argument.
Well,
for me.
I'm actually not. So I understand you have your reasons for believing in God. I'm actually not attacking the God belief with these questions. I'm just trying to establish a baseline of what you believe with respect to religious history. So, like, you believe that Adam and Eve were directly created by God. Do you believe that they were the first and only humans on the planet? For a time.
I believe that Adam was the first human.
Okay.
On the planet. Yeah.
All right. And you believe that it was through them that they had children, and then those children had children, and now we have the human race, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then do you also accept the story of Noah, like how God flooded the entire earth, and Noah and his three sons, Noah, his wife, his three sons, and their three wives were the only human survivors on the boat?
Yeah. Was there a massive boat or whatever? I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Do I believe in the story of Noah? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right.
The thing is, right. When I used to, when I was a younger person, right, I used to listen to. Obviously, you don't have that profound understanding of religion, etc.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Go ahead.
And you used to listen to these American creationists, and the scientists used to laugh at the creationists, like, "Oh yeah, the world was created in 7 days and whatever." Yeah, but this is in scripture, right? So do I know exactly the mechanism how God created Adam and Eve? Do I know exactly? No, I don't. So I am very particular with my language, right?
Sure.
I am not saying God did not create Adam. God created Adam.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. You just accept God created Adam. I don't really care. I don't really care about the mechanism by which.
I think it's a loaded question, because the loaded question is, can religion exist without evolution? Or are they mutually exclusive? Or can they both be intertwined in the same narrative?
I'm a little lost here. So like, I'm not.
Can you believe in evolution and believe in the story of Adam and Eve, etc.?
Yes, you can. It's possible to do that because they are compatible in some ways.
Some ways.
So that's a direct answer to your question. Anyway, back to the reason I was asking those questions about Adam and Eve and Noah. Let's stick with just Adam and Eve. They had children. How did those children have more children? I mean, if you see the trap there, just step into it. Let's have fun. We're here to have a fun conversation. If you see the trap,
It's not a trap.
Step into it boldly. How did Adam and Eve's children have more children?
Eric, it's not a trap.
Okay. Well, yeah, you see it, so it's not a trap. So just answer the question.
It is not a trap. Let me give you. I will answer the question in my own way, please. So
tell you what. Can you give me the short answer, and then you can give me the long answer after that? Can we make that deal? Give me the short answer first, like one sentence answer, and then after that, if you want to elaborate, go ahead and elaborate. But I want the one sentence answer first, please.
The one sentence answer was, yeah, Adam had children, then they had children.
And how did those children have children? That was my question. How did Adam and Eve's children have more children?
Well, do you want me to explain the birds and the bees to you, Eric?
I think we can skip that part.
Okay.
But the fact that you're mentioning the birds and the bees tells me that you know the right answer.
Well, just let me know when you're ready for my long answer. Let me know.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know the answer I want from you because it's the only answer you can give, right? Because it's the correct answer.
But it's not a trap. It's not a trap to me.
Okay, fine. It's not a trap. Adam and Eve had children, and then those children had sex with each other and had more children, right? So was this commanded by God to occur? Did God not command Adam and Eve to be fruitful and become many and fill the earth, and that commandment applied to their children and the children after that? Is that not God's command as stated in Genesis?
Well, I can't speak about Genesis.
Well, that's where the story comes from.
No, I mean, you know.
All right, well, tell you what, tell you what, just take my word for it. I'm not lying to you about this. God commanded Adam and Eve, be fruitful, become many, and fill the earth. Basically, reproduce. So when Adam and Eve did that, and they had children, when you're
ready for my long answer,
okay,
I'm ready for your long answer.
Okay, their children, to follow that command, had to have sex with each other. They, by definition and by requirement, because there was no other options available, had to have incestuous relationships with each other in order to produce more children. And then those children, probably to a lesser degree, had to have incestuous relationships to have more children. And so you have multiple generations where incest is a requirement in order to fulfill God's command. Do you disagree with me?
Don't disagree with you, no.
Okay.
Just tell me when you're ready for my long answer.
I let me say one more thing and I'll let you have the stage. Okay. Here's my deal. In our call that I was going to go over here, you said that incest is wrong because God says it's wrong. And I just gave you an example, which you submitted to, that incest was required to fulfill God's command.
Right.
So when you're ready, is fulfilling God's command, I'm almost done.
Yeah.
Is fulfilling God's command moral or not moral? Just fulfilling God's command. Is it always moral to fulfill God's command, or is it always immoral to fulfill God's command?
When you're ready for my long answer, say I'm ready for your answer.
I will. I'll absolutely do that. Please answer my question first, okay? Were those incestuous relationships explicitly commanded by God immoral?
No.
Okay. So John, the last thing I'll say, then I'll let you talk. You and I are the same. We both look at incest and we both go, incest is icky. Incest is wrong in some cases, but in some cases, it's all right. In your case, it's when God commands it. And in my case, it's when I don't see any harm being done to anybody else. You and I, friend, are the same.
Okay.
Go ahead and give me a long answer.
Right. Here's my long answer. Okay. So we are not the same, Eric, because you believe that incest is moral in this day and age. Okay. I am speaking to you, and the question was pertaining to this day and age. Okay. You gave a scenario last time about a man, and I don't know if it was with you. It might have been someone else, actually. I think it was with someone else. A man and a woman they didn't know each other, but they were actually related. Was that with you, Eric?
That was the example that I gave. Yeah.
That was an example. And
Yeah.
I said, obviously, look, if they didn't know anything, if they didn't know each other, then obviously they're not at fault for not knowing that they were actually brother and sister.
Yeah.
Right. But when they do know, at that point, it's completely immoral.
Okay.
Now,
I
haven't finished my long answer because I said
go ahead.
It was a long
I'm gonna write it down so we can come back to this, but go ahead.
Yeah, keep writing it down. So God has, I'm going to give you an analogy, okay, for you to understand. So as you're an atheist, there are Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, okay? In Islam, you are not allowed to drink alcohol, okay? That's a strict rule, right? In actual fact, when Jesus was around, when you believed in the one true God, because we accept Jesus as Muslims, that he was a messenger from God.
Yeah, he was a prophet.
There wasn't an issue. We don't know if there was an issue regarding alcohol or not. Okay, so and again in the Torah, we didn't know. We don't know if it was okay to drink, but there's a specific rule in the Quran that you are not allowed to drink. That God allowed before and disallowed in when Muhammad, peace be upon him, was given the revelation. That was allowed with other prophets. My specific answer is, I agree with you that when God commands it's okay, then it's okay, because we have our objective moral code is God's code. Okay, that's it.
So I just recap what you just said. You're calling it objective, and I appreciate that you, from your point of view, you consider that objective. I see it as a subjective thing because it's contextual. Incest is bad when God does not command it. Incest is okay, moral, when God does command it.
What's your definition? What's your definition of subjective and objective first?
I am doing a little bit of bait and switch there with subjective on that one point, because it's subject to the context. But typically subjective means of the mind, or basically like, from the position of a mind, is it objective or subjective?
So that's not fair then, is it? So,
no, of course not. Of course not. It was a bait and switch. No, what I'm saying is though, you just explicitly said that incest is okay if God commands it.
No. That's what you just said, though. Hold on. You have just said incest is okay if God commands it. You're using the present tense, commands it. Okay. Where I am saying to you, this is a past historical issue.
How do you know this?
Because
how do you know what God will or will not do? What kind of special insight do you have in God's future plans that nobody else does?
What do you mean? What God will or will not do?
Because you're trying to frame it as God commanded in the past, and it was okay when He commanded it, but He's not going to command it anymore. That's what is heard from you. Are you saying that God will never command people to have incest again?
I can categorically tell you that the Quran is the final testament.
Categorically. So do you believe in personal revelation from Allah the same way Christians believe in personal revelation from Jehovah?
No.
Could God
you mean theophanies or something?
Could God directly command you to do something through a personal revelation or through a vision?
No, we don't. We as Muslims don't believe that.
You don't believe that at all. Okay.
No.
So from your Muslim
word, the book Quran has been preserved for over 1400 years.
Oh. So God doesn't give any. So Allah doesn't give any future instructions to anybody ever. Just Allah will now forever be.
God's not going to tell you if ChatGPT is okay to use. No.
Allah will be forever silent now because He's given us the Quran, basically.
That is my personal belief.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you think it's impossible for Allah to command any future incest. So now from this point onward, all incest is immoral.
That specific question that I asked you was in today's society, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, logically speaking, if we go back, and it's not going to take many divisions, okay, or many iterations, Eric. We are 8 billion people, right? Yes?
Sure.
Roughly 8 billion?
Yes.
Do you accept, if we go back successive iterations, there were 2 people on the planet? Do you accept that?
No, I do not.
Okay, so that's where we differ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't believe in the Adam and Eve story at all.
So you think that, people were just scattered around?
I think we have multiple populations of humans that came from multiple populations of Homo erectus that came from multiple populations before. Like it wasn't like we can narrow our DNA back to certain individuals like mitochondrial Eve, and I think there was like a non-mitochondrial Adam, but I forget what the Adam they called it. They live like hundreds of thousands of years apart. But anyway, we could see choke points in our lineage where we are the descendants of one person, but that doesn't mean that was the only person on the earth. There are other people around, just their lineages have died off.
Okay,
but no, there was no human pair and only one human pair at any point in history. It's just populations.
Okay, so how? What I'm saying is, okay, let me go back to plate tectonics and
Y chromosome Adam. Thank you very much, Jakan Nadar. Is Y chromosome Adam. So mitochondrial Eve and Y chromosome Adam are bottlenecks in our genetic lineage, but they were not a pair that lived together. They lived many thousands of years apart. Anyway, go ahead.
So do I have proof or do you have proof? We both don't have proof, right?
Get genetic evidence, yeah.
No, but that's evidence, right?
Yeah, there's no proof in science. I've said this like 5 times. There's no proof in science what we have in mathematics. We have evidence and theories built on that evidence. And
do we have scientific facts?
And yeah, the scientific evidence and scientific facts go into the theories. And theories stand or fall based off of repeated use. If they don't hold up to making novel predictions and continue to explain the evidence, they either get updated, modified, or discarded. So
do we? Yeah. Let me rephrase the question.
All right.
Can we ever establish whether Y chromosome Adam or Adam as per the creationists' story, or however Adam was created? We actually, humans, people of the scriptures, right? They won't be able to give you a step-by-step detail of how Adam was created. Does that make sense? We openly say that
God did some magic with some dust, and boom, there was Adam. That's all we really have from the Bible. It's reductionist and a little like tongue in cheek, but it's basically that God did his power on dust and dirt, and there you had Adam. That's how the Bible depicts it. I call it magic, but we don't have to call it that. God did his power on some dirt, and there you had Adam. So that's all we know according to the scriptures.
So I can't I'm telling you, I cannot establish that by testing it in a scientific way to establish that whether that was a fact or not. In the same way, you cannot establish that Y chromosome because you won't be able to test it because you don't have.
Why do you think we can't test it? Like genetic testing is a thing, right?
No, but you use these loose terms. Let's talk about genetic testing and the specific genetic testing evidence, because I can go into it. Because if you had it, my views would change. Where is the evidence?
So the big one that I mentioned was ERVs. I said in the stream the other night, and I mentioned it a little earlier. For me, ERVs, endogenous retroviruses, is smoking gun evidence. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that term. Smoking gun means like this is just such amazing evidence. It's considered like a smoking gun in a murder trial. Like this.
Okay,
wow,
so
this is evidence. Yeah,
specific fact.
What is ERVs? ERVs are a scientific fact. We can observe them and take a look at them.
No.
I'm confused.
You're not understanding. The Y chromosome theory
It's not a theory,
is
but
not
okay.
a science.
It's not a theory. There's no Y chromosome theory.
What ERVs, endogenous retroviruses?
All right. So we're conflating
Can I ask
two
you a
issues.
question? Can I ask you a
Hold
question?
on. Let me give me a second. Just 1 second. Let's split the ERVs and chromosome thing. Okay. So those are two separate things.
I just want to ask you one question, Eric.
Go ahead. We're gonna have to wrap this up pretty soon, but go ahead.
You know what? You are so much more patient than Matt. He would have ripped my ear off by now.
That's fine. I mean, Matt is Matt.
Endogenous retrovirus.
So hold on. I got to respond to that. Matt is Matt, and I appreciate him, and I think he does good work. I understand he's not for everybody, but we don't need to talk about him. This is us together, so let's just talk about
how much DNA is in endogenous retroviruses?
How much DNA is in endogenous retroviruses?
Yeah.
So that question is actually backwards. The correct question is how much endogenous retroviruses are in our DNA.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's the correct answer.
Do you know what an endogenous retrovirus is? Like
I know what a endogenous retrovirus is. Yeah. Because it doesn't have any DNA.
It actually does. The virus itself, the reason it's an endogenous retrovirus.
It has RNA.
The reason that the virus is called an endogenous retrovirus is because when it attacks the body, it literally cuts your DNA strand, puts in its own DNA strand, and then attaches the two ends together. It injects its DNA into your DNA. And this happens all the time. Our ERVs are very common. So that's how that works. The reason I consider endogenous retroviruses to be a smoking gun when it comes to confirming evolution is because when an endogenous retrovirus attacks a cell that's used for reproduction, so let's say like a sperm cell or an egg cell, when an ERV enters the body and it happens to hit a sperm cell or an egg cell, injects its DNA into it, and then that cell is used for reproduction, that child, every single cell in that child will have a copy of that virus DNA in the location of the insertion. So to rewind, a virus can go into your body, insert itself into one of your cells, and then that's it. It's just in a random cell and it's not really matter. It doesn't really matter in the long term. But occasionally, very rarely, but it happens, it hits a reproductive cell that's eventually used for reproduction. And then that child has a copy of that viral DNA in every single one of its cells. So now if the theory of evolution is true, we should be able to trace back to our common ancestors with the great apes and also our cousins like chimpanzees, and we should see a pattern of retrovirus insertions that match between us. And between us and chimpanzees, we have over 200 matching insertions with them. So there's a whole video on this, which I can post. But to me, in a nutshell, and I'm not a scientist, so I didn't explain it very well, but in a nutshell, that's smoking gun evidence. That means our ancestors, our long line of ancestors, had viral insertions over many, many, many generations. And then when that ancestor split into us and chimpanzees, those insertions went into both of those branches. And now we can look at chimpanzee DNA and human DNA and go, wow, we have over 200 matching insertions in the same exact locations. So the probability of that happening randomly is astronomical. The probability of it happening in a line of ancestors, a long line of ancestors, and to where we are now, by the evidence, is a probability of 100 because it happened. Anyway, go ahead.
What are the limitations in the proposed concept of the ERV in relation to the theory of evolution?
What are the limitations? I don't understand the question.
So I think rather than talking about ERVs, I probably need to read about it and then maybe come back and talk to you about it, because there's no point.
I highly recommend that. Yeah.
There's no point me talking about a subject that I have limited knowledge on.
Hey, you know what? I totally respect that. I appreciate it when somebody says, "Hey, I don't know this topic." There's lots of topics that I hit, and I'm like, I don't know anything about this. I better not talk about it. I completely appreciate that, and I respect that. I'm going to give you a link here. ERVs, chimpanzees. I'm going to post it. I'm actually going to pin it. I'll pin it over the blah. I'll put it in the private chat for you too. I'm not sure if you'll be able to save it or not. And I'm going to pin that. I should probably verify that it's correct.
I like the comments from the other people. The thing is, I speak about what I know, right? And it would be very arrogant of one to say that, look, we know everything, etc., etc. And you're talking about the previous conversation that I had with someone who was an atheist. But let me talk about something I can expound upon, is the fact that a yes or no question, do you accept, has either the answer yes or no, Eric.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Okay, so it's either. So if I give you the question, either God exists or not, would you accept that there's a 50% chance of the correct answer? Either God exists or not, right?
There's a 50% chance I'll guess the correct answer. Yes. That doesn't mean the probabilities of the answers themselves are 50-50. But my guess would be 50-50. Yeah. Okay, I agree with that.
Yeah. The thing, you have actually accepted that in two short sentences. I spent like 25 minutes talking to someone about that. So either God exists or not, right? So
I agree. That's a true dichotomy. God either exists or he does not.
We'll find out who's correct or not. I
actually disagree with that.
Go on.
So if a God does exist and there is an afterlife, then yes, I agree. We will find out once we die. But if there is no God and there is no afterlife, then when I die, I'm not going to know because I'm gone. When you die, you're not going to know because you're also gone. So the only way we'll know after death is if a God actually exists. But if God doesn't exist, we aren't going to know because we're not here to know. Just to be pedantic, but I understand what you're getting at there. That we'll find out one day. Like, I get your drift there, but that doesn't scare me though. If this is like I don't know, I'll put words in your mouth or anything, but is this like drifting towards like you better believe or else there's bad things in the afterlife for you? Or
absolutely not. Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Because I'm trying to essentially reduce the God argument down to that set of question, right? Yeah. Either God exists or not, right? And if there is an afterlife, like you said, we've understood the pedantic nature of your answer, but it still essentially reduces it down, either God exists or not, right? But the specific issues that you're talking about in relation to incest, my question in the previous video was in today's society, and I gave you I actually gave you a specific scenario.
Yeah, actually, it was a scenario I brought up in the call. I wanted to get back to that as I wrote a note there.
Yeah.
So
let's get back to
do you have a few more minutes, because we can get right back into it about incest, because that's the whole point of this stream. Do you have a few more minutes?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's do it then. Okay, so just to recap everything that's been discussed, in case people haven't, people have shown up. I see Tux is now here. Hey, Tux, how you doing? We got other folks here. We have Let Us Pray, Amen. Sorry, John. Hold on 1 second. Take a breather while I say hi to the audience.
I'm taking a breather.
Yeah. Vic Lit, good to see you here. I might have said hi to you already. No, I don't think I said hi to you already. Tema X Dama. Hello, good to see you. Jimmy Thompson's also here saying hi. And I think that's everybody. If I missed you, go ahead and speak up and I'll say hi again. But I pinned the endogenous retrovirus video in the description. It is a really easy to comprehend video that should hopefully get you going with your ERV research.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, yeah, and I recommend it because, I mean, like I said, to me, it's fairly undeniable. I don't see any other viable explanation. It explains it so strongly. Evolution explains this phenomenon so strongly that I don't see any viable explanation. Doesn't mean I've eliminated all of them, but I just don't see any other ones. So
No,
anyway,
do
okay.
you before we go into, sorry, one more thing I want to.
Right.
Have you heard of the theory of induction?
Theory of induction, you mean as like a mathematical proving process?
No.
Okay.
By David Hume, the philosopher.
Theory of induction. Well, that's the problem of induction, right? That's like iterating upon known knowledge to project forward and see what might be. Basically it. I probably butchered that.
Well, basically, you use that example of a pen, right?
There's the problem of induction. There's no theory of induction. It's the problem of induction. And yes, it's basically like that. All of science is built on induction. Induction is not perfect. Yeah, no, I know all that. Anything in science, I said this on our call the other night, anything in science can be overturned. You just have to bring the proper evidence and argumentation to show it. That includes everything, including the theory of evolution. I think it's highly unlikely that'll ever happen with evolution because way too much evidence and way too much current science supports it.
Well, that's what we thought about Newtonian. That's what we thought about Newtonian mathematics until Einstein came in and tore the whole thing up.
I wouldn't say that's exactly what we thought about that, but I mean, every scientific theory is accepted as true, and people can start saying, "Yeah, this looks like it's true and won't ever be overturned." And yeah, occasionally it happens, but I think we're so far along in the scientific process that it may be more probable that our scientific theories are here to stay, at least certain ones of them. Like with Newtonian physics, we still use that today. It wasn't overturned. It was enhanced by the theory of relativity from Einstein. But Newtonian physics is still used today. We still use it to launch our satellites and our rockets and stuff like that.
I think having reflected on what you've said, right? I have postulated that I do not disagree with the theory of evolution, and it is not the theory of evolution and religion can work side by side, right?
I don't see how religion and evolution have to be mutually exclusive.
Hold on, I haven't finished. Eric.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I don't. Religion and evolution can go together. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. I just agreed with you. Yeah.
What I understand from an atheistic perspective is that the creation of mankind has evolved via, centuries of millennia of speciation, and it all started off with simple organisms. The thing about religious people, or specifically, if you want to use the term creationists, is we only say God created Adam. We don't go into the depths and the intricacies of how it was created, of how he was created. And that's it, essentially. I want the atheists who are listening in to try and understand that just because we believe that doesn't mean that we don't believe in science. That's it.
Yeah, I don't think I'll put a final word in there. Let's get back to incest. So, but I think I don't think atheists in general say that because you accept one legendary tale from the Bible or from the Quran or anything from a holy book that you necessarily don't believe science or don't believe in science or don't accept science. I think maybe the general contention there is that for this particular instance, you are ignoring science because it is coming in conflict with the religious part. That doesn't mean you ignore science whole cloth across the board. It means, though, that you are suspending your belief in science because it is inconvenient for the religion. And that is one of the things that I talk to religious folks about, is because it's like you're swapping out an epistemology that you use for literally everything in your life. And for the one question about your religion or the questions around your religions, you're suddenly substituting in this completely different epistemology that can't be shown to be reliable. It relies on holy books and it relies on faith.
No, I disagree with you.
It's a different process, because like let me illustrate. The epistemology is a completely different methodology that you're using for everything else or your religion. Like, if a guy came to your door and knocked on your door and said, "Hey, John, I want you to give me your credit card information because you just won a car, but I need to get your credit card information to secure the car and get it to you." You would probably have all kinds of like alarm bells going off in your head. Like, wait a minute, hold on. I know.
I think I've understood when it's not in conflict. You use the word conflict. The thing that you specifically use the word conflict.
When science comes in conflict, when science comes into conflict with your religious beliefs, I think is the way I probably put it.
But the science is not coming into conflict. Let me explain to you, because you have assumed one thing.
Science. Sorry, John. Let me say one. John, hold on. Let me say one thing. Science is in direct conflict. Science is in direct conflict with the Adam and Eve tale. Go ahead.
Okay, let me explain something to you.
Go ahead.
The science, in my opinion, science is not in conflict with the Adam and Eve tale. Okay. The specific nuanced detail that I have learned from you today is, if we go back successive iterations back, to millennia, I assume that there were two people in the world. All right.
You assume. Okay.
And you don't. That's the difference.
I don't assume there weren't two people. I don't see the evidence to support two people. In fact, I see the evidence supports populations of people, populations of ancestors.
Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence for that?
We have archaeological evidence, anthropological evidence. We have the fossil record. We have genetics. We have all that. That's
okay.
The science. Hold on, John.
That specific detail. If you can give me evidence for that specific notion.
ERVs.
No, not ERVs.
No. That's the evidence. The evidence, the ERVs that I showed you in the video, or I presented you in that video that I linked you, that takes hundreds of thousands of years to occur. The ERV, the 200 ERVs we have in our DNA that we share with chimpanzees, did not occur in 6,000 or 10,000 years. It occurred over hundreds of thousands of years. Okay. So that blows away the Adam and Eve first human pair thing out of the water. If our interpretation of ERVs is true, that directly refutes Adam and Eve.
Right.
All right. So, but anyway, we talked about that for a while. Anyway, back to the incest thing. I've said that probably 3 or 4 times already. I can't believe this. So just to recap our positions on this from the other night, I said that incest is okay in certain scenarios when when it can be reasonably expected that no harm is going to come to anybody, and that there's no coercion, and there's no grooming involved, and there's no possibility for a genetically messed up offspring to come out of the picture. It's just two consenting adults doing consensual things. Outside of that, I consider incest immoral because it could bring harm to others, whether they be grooming or all that stuff that I mentioned. So John, you, on your position though, and I don't want to straw man you, so if I'm wrong on any of this, correct me. You agree that God used incest to fulfill his purpose with populating the earth from Adam and Eve. In fact, Adam and Eve and their descendants were following a direct commandment from God that I laid out in Genesis, that incest was required to fulfill God's command. There was literally no other way for them to fulfill God's command of filling the earth except with incest. It was a requirement of the situation there. There's other incestual relationships that were in the Bible, in the Israelite history. For instance, you weren't here to listen to it, but there's Abraham and Sarah, ancestors of the Israelites, basically a grandfather of all the Jews. They were half siblings. Lot.
Muslims reject that idea.
You reject Abraham and Sarah?
No, I don't think there's any reference to Abraham and Sarah being half siblings.
It's in the Torah. Yeah, I can look it up for you right now.
Well, the thing is, I will need to verify that understanding.
Absolutely, I'll look it up for you right now. According to the book of Genesis, chapter 20, verse 12, in conversation with the Philistine king Abimelech of Gerar, Abraham describes Sarah as both his wife and his half-sister. In fact, I will look up that scripture right now. I know you're Muslim. Do you have a preferred Bible version you like to look at, or do you not mind? Like, I'll just pick one.
What's that? Sorry, Eric.
I'm just seeing if you had a preferred Bible translation you like to look at. I know you're not a Christian or a Jew, but just seeing if there's a Bible, that version that you prefer. How do I look at the surrounding? Genesis 2012, 2021. I'm sharing my screen right now if you want to take a look.
Yeah, so
okay, here we go.
We don't believe in the Torah as it is today and the Bible as it is today.
So you think these scriptures? Do you think the scriptures have changed over time?
Yeah, we believe that they were corrupted. Yeah.
Okay, so how do we know anything about Abraham then if we can't trust the scriptures that we have of them? Like, how do we know Abraham and Sarah even existed?
Well, we can't.
We can't. Okay, okay, does that also apply to Adam and Eve? We can't know that they existed?
This is why I prefaced this discussion, Eric, by saying there's no point talking about scriptures to someone who doesn't believe in God. And then you said, let's presume that if I believe in the idea of God, because
this not really. This doesn't really come down to the interpretation of scriptures. Like I can leave the scripture here, but like you're telling me that you know things or you believe things about Adam and Eve and how God created them, but then you go and undermine that point by saying, well, the Torah has changed. We can't really trust it. And if you can't trust the Torah, and that's the source of the Adam and Eve story, where are you getting your belief from? You just undermined your own point from earlier.
We've got our own scriptures.
Does the Quran mentions Adam and Eve?
We've got the Quran and the Hadith. Are you aware of that?
I know those. I know of those books, but do they mention Adam and Eve?
They mention Adam and Eve, but I would have to get you. I obviously can't quote chapter and verse off the top of my head.
I don't expect you to. It's fine.
I would have to, look into it, get you relevant verses. This is what it mentions about it, and this is what it doesn't. So.
Does the Quran mention Abraham and Sarah? I think Nidhi just posted something. Quran, Abraham, peace be upon him. The king sent for Abraham and asked, "Oh Abraham, who is this lady accompanying you?" Abraham said, "She is my sister." Hey Nidhi, can you post the book and verse there for that, please?
Yeah, that would be helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. I can also Google it too, but I'm gonna have
which chapter and verse of the Quran is it, Nidhi?
Yeah, he's working on it. Thank you, Nidhi.
Oh, thanks.
But anyway, just to kind of get back to the thing here, though. So by your admission that there has been in the past good incest that is moral because it is required to fulfill God's command. Adam and Eve's children, Noah's children. If you accept Abraham and Sarah, they were in an incestuous relationship. If you accept the other example I mentioned earlier, Lot and his daughters, who were part of the lineage of Jesus, they had an incestuous relationship.
Lot and his daughters. Sorry.
Yeah.
We reject that. I've never heard of that.
Okay, that's fine. We can just reject that too.
I can only tell you what I believe in.
I understand. Let's not worry about Lot and his daughters. I mentioned them. I mentioned them earlier. I mentioned them earlier tonight, but we don't have to talk about them at all. We'll just leave them on the side there. But we do have Adam and Eve, Noah's, his family, and also look like Abraham and Sarah here in a moment. Once I see the scripture from Nidhi.
What has he posted a reference?
He's still working on it. But anyway, okay,
I'll be very impressed if you find a verse.
Let me know if I'm wrong here though, but from your point of view, there has been occasions of incest in the past that were moral. In fact, directly commanded by God, and that makes them moral. but you don't think God's going to, at any other time from here on forward, going to command more incest to occur. Is that correct?
So, can you repeat that? Sorry, I was
Okay,
just on.
I'll try to wrap it up, make it a little more succinct. You believe that incest was required for Adam and Eve to fulfill God's command, and that by incest happening amongst their children, that was moral because they needed to do that to fulfill God's command to be fruitful and be many and fill the earth. Noah and his family did the same exact thing after the flood. You think, by your admission, there has been cases of moral incest in the past, but you don't think that's ever going to happen again. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay. So my comment still stands, though, because I understand you don't think it's ever going to happen again. Okay. But we're still the same. You believe there are cases of incest that are moral. I think there are cases of incest that are immoral, or at least not immoral, right?
We're not the same, though.
No, just from the you're saying that incest is immoral across the board from our call the other night, but tonight you've admitted
no, I didn't.
There were
I didn't
some
say,
cases.
I did not say it was immoral across the board. I gave you a specific example. If a brother and a sister who did not know each other,
that's true,
who had relations with each other, had offspring, would that be regarded as immoral? If they did not know, obviously they would not be in sin, right? Okay. However, when they do know, they need to, they need to stop.
Right? Okay, that was going to be my next question. So, okay, I agree that you did say that on the call the other night. So but that's the thing though. So now incest no longer has to do with genetics. It has to do with knowledge, because now the couple needs to know that they were in an incestuous relationship for then to become immoral. So here's my scenario.
That's what you call a tautology, isn't it?
No.
Yes,
the genetic part's not a concern, because they were together and having sex, even though they matched genetics, and it wasn't immoral as long as they didn't know about it. But once they do know about it, now all of a sudden it's immoral, is what you just said, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So in that scenario, let's say we have that scenario. Okay, we have two people, they get together, they get married, and they're married for 50 years. They're 80 years old. They had a long, beautiful, happy life together. No children, but they had a long, beautiful, happy life, and they had lots of sex. And then when they're 80, probably not having sex anymore, but now that they're 80, now they find out they were siblings. So you think that the entire relationship up to them turning 80 was moral, and once they have the knowledge that they're siblings, now all of a sudden the end of their relationship there is now immoral?
Absolutely.
So what changed there other than their knowledge?
Well, let me explain to you. Do you understand, in law, there is a concept called actus reus and mens rea?
I have not heard that term before, but go ahead.
Okay, it's Latin phraseology. So in simple speak, actus reus is the action, and the mens rea is your intention. Okay. Now, God is very just, right? God is we believe in a just God, in a God that's fair. Now, if you did not know that was your brother or sister, right? How can any just entity, or in fairness, how can a just God punish the individuals if they did not know?
Well, that's the thing, though.
That's the beauty of a just God, right?
Well, here's the thing, though. So hold on. So let's not conflate morality with law. So
no, I'm not conflating morality with law. I'm trying to give you what the intention and the act. There's an intention and the act.
So if two people get together, let's paint another scenario then. If two people that get together,
hold up 1 second.
Go ahead.
Eric, Niddy's giving me a.
Yeah, I just found it.
Hold up 1 second. Let me see if I can find it.
Thank you, Nitty, by the way.
Let's see, Bukhari.
I'll let you read it since you're more familiar with the Quran than I am, but I have it up right here.
You've got it up right here.
I'll share it.
Yeah, where does it? What does it say? She is my sister, i.e., in religion. It doesn't. I think you said in your little inscription before, half sister. It doesn't say that. Sister in religion. So basically, she's a believer, right, of monotheism. It's not
I wouldn't know.
sister.
So let's compare this with the Bible. So the king that they're mentioning, they're talking to. Enter the village. King was a tyrant. The king told Abraham. Okay, and then in the Bible it says that Abraham replied, "She really is my sister, the daughter of my father, though not of my mother, and she became my wife." So the Bible says
you see the distinction.
So the daughter of the father. Yeah, I can see that. If this is the way it's translated, I don't know, but I'll take your word for it since you're the Quran expert.
I'm not an expert. Let me just
well,
say
you're more an expert than I am, but that's an interesting thing. We can maybe dig into more because I'm wondering what's so hold on here. Yeah, well, that's fine, but we can still go into just like the Adam and Eve thing and the Noah thing. Whether this is supported by the Quran or not, I don't know. I don't want to dig into it too much.
Yeah, because I've never heard of that before. So
yeah.
you know, well, if Niddy came up with an absolute belter, you know.
Yeah, more homework. More homework.
Yeah.
Anyway, so anyway, I'm going to paint another illustration here, another example. So we have two people that get together in their 20s. They believe that they're brother and sister. They have knowledge that they're brother and sister. Neither of them groomed each other. Neither of them coerced each other. They are both sterile, no possibility of children. They get together and have an incestuous relationship up until they're 80. So you would consider that immoral, right?
When they, I would consider.
I'm basically taking the previous example and just flipping it. So instead of them not knowing for the first 80 years or for 80 up to their 80th birthday, they do know. So that first, so they get together, they know their siblings, they get into an incestuous relationship, and up until they're 80, that's immoral, right? Okay.
That's immoral. Yeah.
Then let's say once they turn 80, they look at some family records and they go, "Oh, actually, we're not related. Look, you have a different mother and father here."
Right.
So does that flip the switch the other direction?
I don't understand. So you let me clarify my understanding. Siblings, they know each other up until the age of 80.
Yeah.
Then they don't know, and then they do know.
No. So they think they're siblings their entire life. Up to I'm sorry, take that back. They think they're siblings up until they're 80. They get into a relationship. That relationship's immoral because they have knowledge that they're siblings. But then once they turn 80, they suddenly find out, wait, hold on. Actually, turns out we aren't siblings. We found some family records or something that shows that our parents are different. Does their relationship now suddenly switch to moral?
So I can't give you a specific judgment. I always say, look, God is going to be the. Hold on.
Go ahead.
If you're asking about my provisional moral compass based on my religion, if they thought that they were brother and sister and they got into a relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is wrong. Full stop.
Okay.
Let me give you an example.
Well, I just want to do a follow-up question. Just a follow-up question here before we get into another example. But here's the thing, though. So in the previous example, you said that knowledge was the key factor there. Once they got knowledge of their true relationship as siblings, then it became
I didn't say
you did.
Just I used the terms
So it's
like the law, actus reus and mens rea. It's the intention and the act.
It's the intention and the act.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Intention and the act. So
okay. Let me give you.
No. Well, I'm trying to process this and put it into my example here. So yeah, sure. Okay. Let's go with intention and the act. For that first part of their relationship, up to when they were 80, they had knowledge they were siblings. They had intention and they acted immoral, right? Like it's immoral, right? Then they turn 80 and they realize they're actually not siblings, and they go, "Oh, okay." Is that relationship still immoral, or does it become moral? Because once they have knowledge that they're not actually siblings, intention and act don't really matter anymore because there's no crime there to be committed.
Yeah, I understand the example that you've given.
So
let me clarify my understanding.
Go ahead.
My understanding of that example is you've got a brother and sister. They think they're brother and sister for 80 years.
I would even say they know. I would even say they know it. They claim to knowledge they know their brother and sister, even though they really aren't. But they know it and they believe it. Go ahead.
Yeah, they know it and they believe. They live in the same household. Basically, they were raised by one set of parents. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Well, that intention. So just knowing, having the knowledge that the woman that you're sleeping with is your sister contravenes the law of the religion, right? But in the event that they turn... Hold on, let me finish my answer.
Go ahead.
In the event that actually they are 80 years old, they go on the internet and they discover they're not related by blood.
Yeah.
Okay.
80. I said 80 years old. Like they lived a full life. Okay, good.
Yeah, 80.
Okay.
Then look, this is beyond my level of judgment as to God. God will be essentially deciding what is.
I find it. So Joe, on observation, or John, I find it funny how you're very ready when on the first example, when they didn't know and then they knew, you were very ready to flip on that immorality switch. Like, yeah, it's immoral. They should split up. That's it. You were, and the only thing that changed there was knowledge, and then
No,
the
but
intent.
It's really important because
when I flip it backwards, now all of a sudden you're not so sure. I find this peculiar.
No, but I haven't said that I am the final arbiter of all morality.
I never said you were. I'm asking what you think about it.
No,
I'm not looking to you as an authority. I'm looking to you as a person with opinions, and I'm asking what your opinion
okay.
is.
Well, I can give you my opinion. I won't hesitate to give you my opinion.
So is it moral or immoral once they realize
what I don't want you to conflate is the idea that I am giving you a religious edict or a representing the view from my faith based on this dilemma, this incestuous dilemma, if you want to put it like that.
I love dilemmas because dilemmas because they push beliefs and they make you test your reasoning. This is fun.
Well, it's interesting to say the least. However, let me give you my understanding of that scenario and my moral compass according to
I'll let you do that, but one short answer: does that relationship become moral at 80 once they realize they are not actually siblings?
If they are not blood related, right? Then of course they are. If they are not blood related, they can't blood related. I mean, like brother and sister. Okay, they are entitled to have a relationship. However,
they're entitled, but I'm asking about morality, not entitlement. Like,
what do you mean? What do you mean by entitlement? I've given you a straight answer.
You just mentioned entitlement, and you said they're entitled to it. And I'm like, I don't
Please
care
let
about
me let me finish my answer to
Okay, go ahead.
essentially give you a clear understanding of my interpretation of it. Okay. So if they grew up in a household, they claimed the knowledge that they were brother and sister, and they were in a relationship, okay, in a sexual relationship, that in itself is immoral.
Under your worldview, I agree. Under your worldview, that would be immoral. But then at 80, the knowledge changes. So then what happens to that immorality value there?
Like I said, at 80, if the thing is, you're raising the issue of a couple knowing that they were brother and sister, they contravened God's law, right?
Okay.
And in actual reality, at 80 years old, they discover, actually, we're not blood related. I have said to you that if you're not brother or sister, okay, or there are other, incestuous relationships in terms of, you can't marry your mother or something like that, then whether to an onlooker who is looking at a man and a woman who are not related, that is not immoral. Does that make sense?
I missed that last part there. So, I mean, my question is, what happens at 80 when they realize they aren't siblings? Does it go from immoral to moral? Because in the first example, that switch does flip based on knowledge.
But what I'm saying is,
but what I'm asking is, when the situation's reversed, does it flip on that knowledge change too? Is there consistency in your position? Is what I'm asking.
There is a consistency in my position.
Okay.
Yeah. Because
does the relationship then does the relationship flip to moral or not once they realize they're not siblings?
No, but then the thing is,
it doesn't.
Well, hold on. Let me answer.
I'm asking.
Eric, let me answer.
Go ahead.
At 80, if they know that they are not blood related, okay, then it would not be immoral of them to be in a relationship.
It would not be immoral. Okay, so the switch does flip. Then you're basically saying your answer is yes.
So it's is my answer consistent? However,
I'll accept that as consistent, but I'm a little flustered with how long it took you to get there. Because
let me say something really, really important.
All right.
If you are not blood related in actual fact, in reality, but you think you are brother and sister, right? That would be absolutely immoral.
I already said, under your worldview, if I was to adopt your worldview, I would agree with that.
So do you accept that there is consistency in the moral compass?
In this case, I think you've demonstrated consistency, even though there was a lot of words there and I'm still like parsing it through. But
thank you.
So here's a wrap-up question then, okay? Here's a wrap-up question. So for a moment, I know this is hard to do probably, but bear with me. For a moment, let's say your God doesn't exist. Let's say you're wrong about Adam and Eve and the history, and the Quran is false and the Bible's false and everything. Like it's just stories made up by people. Like we have many examples of stories being made up by people.
These are stories made up by people. Imagine you're an atheist. Why did you just say?
I'm not really saying you're an atheist. Just you can still be a theist. Just you realize these stories aren't true. There is a God. Sure, why not? You still believe in a God, but you don't know what the God wants or says because there's no book to go off of. God doesn't reveal anything to you.
So are you saying
you can still be a theist? What would your position on that be, and how would you get to it if you didn't have your scriptures to rely on, or you realize these scriptures are actually false? What would you rely on after that? What would be your backup?
If I wasn't, if I didn't believe in the scriptures, yeah, I genuinely would not know how to answer that question.
And I think, and I'm not trying to be insulting here, I think that's our key disconnect, because I've experienced both sides of it myself. I was raised a Christian. I got all my morality from a holy book. And then one day I realized my holy book doesn't quite stand up to snuff. It doesn't quite meet the standards of evidence and logic and reasoning that's anything else should. This is going back to our talk about using two different epistemologies. You use one epistemology for when a scammer's at your door, but when you read a holy
sorry,
book,
Eric. Sorry, just to interject.
okay.
Someone called Jester, Lord of Fools, said at 80 it doesn't flip the mens rea of the first 80 years. Well, exactly. That's my whole bloody point. So, okay. My apologies.
No, it's fine. But anyway, this is going back to epistemology. Okay, I had a holy book that told me what to think and what was right and wrong. I then realized that the holy book was false, and I stopped believing in it. And I had a renaissance in my life where I was in the same position you are right now, where if one day you think your book is false, what do you do? What do you back yourself up on? And this is the morality that I use. I use a morality where I have goals that I want to see achieved. And my goals are, like I mentioned at the call the other night, flourishing. I want to see humans flourish. I want to see suffering reduced. I want to see happiness increase.
Eric.
And let me finish up. Hold on. Let me finish up here. I use those as my goals. And then I can use my mind and my epistemology and my reasoning to determine what actions, what events get me closer to my goals and further away from my goals.
Yeah, Eric.
And that's why on my position here, I'm wrapping this up for the audience too. So, and that's why on my position is that when it comes to incest, there are moral cases, or at least not immoral cases of incest when nobody's getting hurt. And I learned this from a secular morality, a morality that is not based on a holy book. And one day, John, if you ever decide that, hey, maybe this book doesn't quite hold up, you might find yourself in that same boat. And I strongly encourage you to think about why something actually is wrong instead of just, my God says so. Because in the Bible, we see the God of, Abraham do lots of horrific stuff. I'm not very familiar with the Quran, but maybe there's things in the Quran that you look at and go, oh, I don't know about this. Like an authority figure, even one that calls itself a God, isn't necessarily objectively moral. It can command you to do horrendous things, and you can command you to do things that you don't like, command you to do things that might, horrify people later on. Like, for example, in the Bible, the Canaanites and the Midianites, the slaughtering of them, the slaughtering of babies and children in their cribs by sword and spear. God commanded in the Bible, so by this theistic logic, that was moral, and I just can't get behind that. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm done ranting.
That's okay. That's okay, Eric. Can I imagine what I would do if I wasn't a believer of Islam?
Yeah, that was the question I asked. No,
I of course, because I would be like, you know what? Get me a needle, okay, and let me chemically try and maximize my endorphins as much as possible. Right? Of course, I'd do so much. I'd do so many things.
You think you would? Do you think you would spiral into drug use and hedonism? Is that what I just heard?
Why not? Why if there's no afterlife, right? Why wouldn't I do all these, hedonistic things? Why wouldn't I do it?
Why did so John? So why would you? You're basically
do you
saying,
understand?
Why would I? I think I did. I think you just said if there's no afterlife, you won't care about this life.
It's not about caring about this life. Why isn't it? I'm caring about myself, right? I'd be like, get me a needle, and
so you would be depressed to the point where you'd want to use drugs in order to uplift yourself so that you wouldn't have to deal with the pain.
No.
I'm not parsing this. Like what's so getting high on drugs?
The thing is, do you understand how completely different and diametrically opposed someone's view can be if they become an atheist? Like the views that I've just given, because you might be let's use the word inverted commas, good person for, you want the betterment for society. Someone else might be like, okay, just, you know what? There's no afterlife. We're all going to just become dust. I don't give a crap about anything. All I'm going to do is chemically maximize my endorphins. Okay. It's not about using the word depressed, because you don't need, I'll just say, look, I care about myself and that's it. I'm not going to give charity to anyone.
All right.
I'm
So
not going to care about,
it's not depression. You just want to jack up the pleasure until your life ends.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you think that maybe after?
Do you understand? Do you understand how diametrically opposed that is to your moral viewpoint?
Sure, but
so do you understand
my question
how
is,
arbitrary? Do you understand how arbitrary it could be?
Sure, but here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, though.
This is why we have laws. Okay. Even in a nation state, you're in America and I'm in the UK. If we didn't have laws, the laws are there for the betterment. The aim essentially is to better society, right? That is the aim. Do we agree with that?
Yeah, I think having laws is good and moral. We should have laws.
Okay, but do you also understand that Islam is not even a religion? It's actually a complete way of life.
I hear the same thing about Christianity. You'll have to take it up with them. From my point of view, it's all religion.
So it's law, right? It's just laws.
Christianity has laws, and Judaism has laws. I mean,
tells you how to live. Just how you've got the nation state and the government, right?
But where do you think the secular laws come from, and where do you think, and how do you compare that to the laws in holy books? Because our secular laws don't come from our holy books. They don't. Our secular laws.
This is where do you think
secular laws?
Is the law itself intrinsically secular?
Is the law itself intrinsically secular? That's a weird question.
It's not a weird question.
Like
you use the phrase. Phrase secular law.
Yeah, secular law, as in laws that we have devised without religion, separate from religious considerations. Those are secular laws.
Well, no, they're just laws.
The same way we have secular schools here in the United States, schools that are separated from religion.
The laws that are being put through the Congress and Senate, right? They are just laws. They're not secular laws.
They're secular laws. No, they're secular. They're secular. Okay, maybe not all laws are based on secular reasoning. Like there are like we have religiously motivated people here in the United States that try to push laws disguised as secular, but really they're from Bible and other holy book stuff. But the idea, that's the thing though, like they have to disguise it as such to make it look like it's secular, because our laws here, and also don't want to speak too much about Britain, but in UK,
if you use the distinction,
the laws are secular. The laws are there because of reasons not in a book, or reasons not dependent on a holy book. That's what makes them secular. Okay. There's no laws in our books that says because the Bible says so or because the Quran says so.
Now you're making the distinction. So that's why if it's not a religious law, by definition, it's a secular law. Does that make sense?
That's what I said earlier. Yes, it's a law that is independent of religious consideration. Like it's not. Anyway, so here's the thing, though.
What about those secular laws?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at earlier. Those laws are in place because generally people have the same goals. They want to increase their happiness. They want to decrease their suffering. They don't want to get injured or assaulted or violated in any ways. They want to know that if they send their children out to play outside, that they aren't going to get hurt. Like, we all have generally the same goals, because I think those goals come from our morality, which comes from our evolution. So my question before was,
do you accept in principle, right, that the atheistic moral code has the potential of such an arbitrary.
There's no
It's
atheistic.
arbitrary.
There's no atheistic moral code here. That's a very loaded terminology. We're either the law is secular or it's not.
Can I redefine it then?
Sure, go ahead.
The moral code of an atheist is so arbitrary.
The moral code of an atheist is so arbitrary.
As opposed to,
so do you think that
so opposed to the moral code of, say, for example, I'll be very specific, as a Muslim, which is there is a very specific law. Do you accept that there is that clear distinction?
I don't think so. So you said that the moral code of the non-religious is arbitrary.
Because our laws are set, right? The Muslims' law is already set.
So here's the thing, all right? So I say still we are the same, because my laws, the morals that I follow, are based on my goals. You also follow a morality that you claim is from your God, and you claim that your God has set those objective morals into motion, but you yourself have made the decision to follow that because you think that's right. That is your arbitrary.
That again reduces.
That is your arbitrary decision, is to follow your Quran. We're both in the same boat. We just look at different sources of our morality. And that's why I asked the question earlier, what if one day you realize the Quran is false? What would you fall back on? And you said that you would enhance your pleasure with drugs because you don't see any other path forward.
Why is that? Can I just ask you that question? Why is that immoral?
I wasn't saying it was immoral. I didn't make any morality claim about it. I was a little baffled by the answer. I haven't made any declarations about my opinion about your answer.
It's not baffled by the answer. I'm just saying this is how.
No, I'm baffled by the answer. I listened to your answer. I'm a little baffled by it. I'm like, really? Do you really think you would just enhance your pleasure centers to the max and write out the rest of your life like that? Because drugs will, because I was going to get into that. I was like, drugs catch up with you. Drugs will make your life miserable. Like, sure, you could potentially have a short high there and feel good, but then, man, once your body gets used to those drugs or catches up or those side effects start kicking in,
but that's a subjective.
All the way down. But that's not subjective. That's an objective fact, is that drug side effects will start kicking in. Like you can look at pictures of dope fiends online and see the transition they have from healthy to being a husk of a person.
No, but what I'm trying to get at is, if you have lots of atheists that don't believe in religious doctrine, for example.
We do have lots of atheists who don't believe in religious doctrine. So we're already at that state that you're about to describe. So we're already there. So keep on going.
No, but the thing is, you're talking about laws. You're talking about it's all subjective. This all reduces down to the subjective nature and the debate between your subjective nature and my objective moral code. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, well, your moral code is not objective.
Yours isn't. I'm not referring to your God's moral code. Maybe your God does exist, and maybe he does have an objective moral code. But you, sir, using your mind, have subjectively chosen to follow it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
we're in the same boat. We both have subjective morals. Our authorities are different.
No. So what are your authorities?
I explained it a couple times. My authorities are my understanding and my goals. My understanding of reality and my goals.
My understanding and my goals.
Yeah.
So why are you baffled by the answer about the theist who becomes an atheist who wants to just put drugs in and get really high? Because that's their goals and their mind.
I don't call that immoral. Let's put it. I'll go ahead and just bite that hook. If that atheist or if that person takes that path and they don't hurt a single person in their drug induced journey, I don't find that immoral. I find it sad. I don't want to see that happen. I want to see them to have a different life than that. But I can't declare that immoral if they're not hurting somebody else.
No, but your initial answer was the correct answer, Eric. That is exactly what I'm trying to demonstrate.
What was my initial answer to that? Because I don't.
You were baffled by it. You were baffled by it.
I was baffled by your response.
No, exactly, because it's
I was baffled.
radical.
I was baffled at what you would do. I didn't declare it immoral. I was confused by it because I'm like, well,
you wouldn't declare it's immoral to what?
I didn't declare it, John. John, slow down and listen to me. I didn't make any moral declarations about it until just a moment ago.
Well, you have made a moral declaration, Eric.
Yeah, just a few moments ago I did. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm baffled by the fact that you don't think it's immoral.
I explained. I explained to you that if there's no harm coming to somebody else, I can't dictate what you do to yourself. I have no authority to do that, and I don't want anybody to have that authority to do that over me. People can't dictate to you what you do to yourself. If you make that choice, I can't declare it immoral. I might be sad. John, slow down, please. I might be saddened by it. I might not want to see you do it, but I can't sit there and declare it immoral.
This is exactly my point, Eric. With the incest discussion last time, I understand that it made you think, and because it made me think, I watched the whole video, the whole excerpts again. You use the word icky because that's your innate response.
Yes.
I agree with your answer that you were baffled by my answer. That actually, yes, it does. It does, and I agree with you. If someone injects heroin or whatever drugs into them, yes, there is medical evidence. So, in the same vein, then say it's not. You cannot say in the same phrase that it's immoral. You're saying it's moral. You're saying it's moral.
I said okay. So if
not immoral,
if moral is the exact, if moral and immoral are a true dichotomy, then yeah, but I don't think it is. There's moral, immoral, and amoral. I would say it's amoral. Okay. But I'm very careful. I'm very careful to say though, not moral or not immoral. So I could be more specific about saying it and calling it amoral. I would consider your position on that.
Hold on. Let me just pull you back to the actual scenario. Okay. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Forget the moral or immoral.
Is it a good thing or bad thing compared, like, in respect to what? Like this is still not a moral issue, but it's the core of it is what's the goal here? Because you can't determine good and bad unless you have a goal in mind.
Okay, forget good and bad. It's immoral, right? For someone to sit in a room. Is it immoral for someone to spend the rest of their days not caring about society, whatever, just saying, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to inject heroin in my... Is it immoral? You have, by your own admission, said, I cannot say it's immoral.
That's right.
I'm making you think.
I don't consider it immoral. That's what I said earlier.
This is exactly it. Quod erat demonstrandum. QED. I am proving my point. You are saying I agree with your initial answer because you are so baffled, right, by the fact that why would someone want to do that? Because it is wrong.
No, John, you have that all wrong. I'm so sorry. You do not have that wrong. I'm baffled because I'm like, okay, I see a person with potential here. I see a person who has a life ahead of them. I see a person that we could be friends and maybe get to know each other better. But instead that person takes their life and does something with it that will block those things out. Will close doors. Like that's not me saying it's immoral because I'm not seeing what I want to see. This was my point in the call earlier, is that the ickiness factor, the emotional response to it, you can't take that and then make a moral declaration over it.
No, but do you understand this is how arbitrary, it demonstrates the arbitrariness that I was referring to, because it's fixed. If you're a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim, okay, I can confidently say that scenario, everybody would say it's actually immoral.
I don't care about what other people would say about it. I'm caring about what I would say about it, because it's a conversation
That's
between
it.
you and me.
This is,
about
you're
our
proving
morals.
my point, Eric. You're proving my point. It's so subjective. It's my goal and my understanding.
Yes, morality is subjective.
Right.
Both of our moralities are subjective.
So why don't you imagine going to court, right? I'm saying that to a judge. Actually, it's my understanding and my goal. We have a moral code in a nation state as citizens. It's called the law.
That's not a moral code. No, hold on. It's got to stop you right there. The law and morality are two separate things. You can have laws that are moral. You can have laws that are immoral. They're independent of each other. We tend to favor laws that align with our morality, but a law does not necessarily make something moral. For example, in Germany, it was the law to turn in Jews for the concentration camps. That is not a moral thing to do.
Now, I agree with that point. I definitely agree.
So the law and morality, they're divorced. Mom and dad are divorced. They're never going to talk to each other again. Don't do that again.
I agree with you on that point. But do you understand?
We're going on. So hold on, John. We're going on almost 3 hours here. I would like to wrap up and talk to the audience a little bit. So I'm going to let you have a last word, and then we'll call it good from there. It was a really good conversation, but I'll give you.
I enjoy. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Eric. I can't believe I've stayed on this show for this long.
This was pleasant. I didn't expect this to happen either, but no, I'm glad you stopped by, and this was very pleasant.
We spoke about incest. We discussed some scenarios, and my moral compass as a believer of a scripture was, by your own admission, Eric, consistent. There was we did discuss other scenarios, and we discussed the moral nature of those acts. And if you watch the video again, Eric, and I'll reflect on it, that act itself, your initial answer was correct. That's the right thing, because
to be baffled was the right thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Because but I said from my emotional reaction, I know you said I gave you the last word, but I mean, you seem to miss what I said after that. My emotional reaction has no bearing on whether I can declare it moral or immoral. I have to take that action and then compare it to my goals.
I think that kind, when you used the word icky last time, and this time you used the word baffled, I think subconsciously it's appealing to your innate nature of right and wrong that I was referring to, because we know what right and wrong. We have an innate sense of right and wrong. We both agree with that. But the difference between you and me, Eric, is I have a codified moral code, okay, in the scriptures, as do Christians and as do Jews, and atheists don't. And that is the issue. The two words to summarize it is slippery slope. Eric, you're a very sensible, learned person. If you can probably navigate the world and add to the utility and productivity of this world in a inverted commas good way, without religious scriptures, and I have probably a lot of confidence that you will in the future. But I
appreciate you admitting there that you don't need the scriptures to be moral. So
however
appreciate that.
However, religion is just not about morality. All right, religion is much more than morality. Okay, this is just one example of how we can use ridiculous scenarios and you come out with the inverted commas incorrect answer, because anybody, if you go
right.
to the general population and say you don't think it's immoral that some individual is sitting in a room with a needle and heroin and injecting themselves to maximize their endorphin levels, well, how on earth would you write those laws? You would never get elected into office in the first place.
All right.
And with
well,
that,
hey, John.
thank you very much.
All right, John. You have a good, I guess, must be morning over in the UK. So you have a good morning. And yeah, thanks for dropping by.
You too. Thanks.
All right. Goodbye. All right. Did not expect that to happen, but not too shabby, I don't think. Yeah, I agree. There were some frustrating points in there. Let's see here. So let me clear John out of here. All right, I'm going to get you out of the back room, John. So have a good night, or have a good morning, rather. See you later. Make sure it's not a, yeah, okay, it's a kick, not a ban. Okay, great. All right, yeah, let's wrap this up. That was unexpected. We didn't even get to see the video. I was going to make commentary in the video, but I mean, once John was here, I was like, okay, this is way better than the video. Yeah, so the baffling comment, I think I've said several times to John that our emotions don't have bearing over whether something is moral or immoral. They can perhaps inform, they can maybe like instinctually point us in the direction. Maybe most of the time it's going to be accurate, but there are going to be things that we're going to come across that we're going to look at and go, ugh. But then you think about it and you're like, oh, well, actually, I can't think of why that's a wrong thing. I just personally dislike it. You know, for example, like I can think about anchovies on pizza. I can't declare that immoral, but I can find it icky. Same thing goes for, you know, incestuous relationships. I can look at that and go, ugh, not my cup of tea. But are they really doing things that are going to get me away from the goals that I want to see accomplished in the world? And I think I made a point a couple times. John and I are the same in that we have contextual scenarios where there's context around incest, where incest can become at least not immoral. I can call it, you know, I wouldn't necessarily go and say call it virtuous, but you can call it amoral. At least it's not immoral. You know, John, by his own admission, you know, Adam and Eve and Noah. Whether or not the Quran actually supports like an actual like relationship between Adam and Sarah is a different thing. Thank you, Nitty, by the way, for looking that up. That's an interesting thing to see if that's actually supported by the Quran or not. Because who knows? Maybe that parentheses in religion was added by somebody who was like, oh, hold on, this is not very good for our religion. So maybe, who knows? But what was I saying? Yeah, so but anyway, John and I are the same. There's scenarios where incest is okay, where incest is not bad. His scenario is God said so in the past. My scenario is nobody's getting hurt. And we're also the same, and I don't think he necessarily agreed with me, but he didn't dispute it, and I don't think he could dispute it, that we both have subjective moralities. My goal is to see flourishing and humans becoming more happy in general, less suffering in general, the securing of our future and the security of our planet. And I want to see us expand out into the cosmos and flourish, you know, go everywhere. His subjective morality or his subjective choice is to follow his God that is described in a book. And you can say that, yeah, sure. Okay. I can say for hypothetically that, yeah, God put forward an objective morality, but it is still John's subjective choice to follow that. He's looked at that and he said, this is the right way, but that's coming from his mind. It's a subjective position. And we could also go into how a God could potentially have said the opposite things are moral. Like, for instance, with God, let's say God says, well, it's moral to believe and worship me. There could have easily been a God who said, nah, it's not moral to believe and worship in me. In fact, it's immoral to believe and worship in me. You could have a God that said that. So if that's the case and a God is capable of going one way or the other, then that God had to decide on what to do. And that's now a subjective choice. You just simply switch the source of the choice, the mind, from the human to the God. So if a God does exist and the God does put out moral decrees, I don't see how those can't be subjective, because this God can easily change his mind about something. Of course, a Christian would say, oh, well, it's God's nature. It's God's nature that you should worship him, which that doesn't make quite sense. I mean, you can say God's nature is good and God's nature is love and God's nature is justice and peace and all that stuff. But you can't say God's nature is you should do this. Like, that doesn't quite make sense. Anyway, John and I are the same in certain ways. But yeah. All right, let's keep on going. Let's see who else is here. 36 people. I think we hit 40 at one point. This is great. I'm so glad folks showed up. Sorry, my brain's running on fumes here. Last few streams, I think we barely broke 20. So having almost 40 here was really nice. It was great to see everybody. Okay, there we go. I just caught up with the chat here. Oh, I'll get to Earl's comment earlier. I did want to address that just to make sure. Yeah, I might have had a few smirks there, but it's fine. It's fine. It was a civil conversation. It's fine. It's fine. I don't think he was looking at me through a camera anyway. So, all right. Tuck says, John, when reviewing this, understand Eric is baffled by your desire to do drugs and have sex as a result of not being religious. Just be you and learn to forgive yourself. And yeah, that is exactly what I was getting to. Because I can imagine if I had taken that position that John just did when I lost my religion, when I said, oh, everything I believed in is false, or at least I can't confirm it's true. What do I do now? I had a ground up rebuild of my morality system, and I'm still rebuilding it. I'm still learning more about it. I'm still learning about all the intricacies of it. And I am glad I didn't do that, because I can't imagine if I had decided to just rely on drugs for the rest of my life to stay happy. I can't imagine where I would go. I mean, I can barely drink for, an evening without getting a massive headache in the morning. And I can't imagine what harder drugs do to you, which is going to what Earl said earlier. I think Earl objected to one of my comments, which we'll go over just so it's there. But yeah, tell me he has a random number generator. Yeah, just take the timing and the number of letters in his words, and there you go. You have random number generation. He'd be great for like an RPG or something like that. Get that going. Yeah, thanks for Glick for staying there and saying hi. Ryan Murphy asks, could one say the secularists would remove themselves from harm, where theists stick their nose in to stop the perceived harm? Could you say the secularists would remove themselves from harm, where a theist stick their nose in to stop the perceived harm? I mean, I don't see how a secularist would be prevented from doing the latter. I mean, you could say that, hey, I could say, hey, John, I mean, we can maybe stretch it and say, okay, hey, John, I think I see you add so much value to the world, and denying the world your presence, your all this stuff. I could say, hey, John, you're valuable as a person, and we'd all be at a loss without you. So please don't do drugs. I could maybe jump to the conclusion that, hey, doing drugs is immoral because you're denying us your presence. I don't know. But no, I mean, like secularists, non-religious people, they do interventions. And I don't think that's necessarily necessitates one or the other. Okay. Jester says, I personally have a moral code. That code just tells me how to determine the morality of a situation and how to determine the best way to deal with it. It's not black and white, neither is reality. And I agree. I agree that you can have a moral position on one thing and maybe have a different moral position on something else. Or you can maybe have a moral position on something like, I don't know, like what's a good example? Let's say you have a scenario where you're going to have, I don't want to get too far into this. Let's say you have a scenario where somebody might get hurt for a decision they made, and somebody might, actually, I don't know if I can get into this. I'm too tired to really coherently say it. But my point being is that, yeah, you can maybe, like, if you start like messing with numbers, I could have a morality system where, like, if I see harm, this much harm on one side and this much harm on the other, I can maybe say, well, I think this harm is worse because there's more numbers. Or I can say this harm is worse because of the type of harm it is, and the numbers aren't really relevant to that. But if you like really skewed those numbers, a utilitarian part of my brain might kick on and go, wait a minute, hold on now. These numbers are getting absurd. I can then maybe switch my opinion about it. There might be scenarios like that in which just the sheer numbers or volumes of people getting hurt or bad things happening might change, even though I don't necessarily proportionally weigh those together. So yeah, that could be the case. Eddie Dean, thanks for the super chat. I should probably look and see if there's other super chats. I think you're maybe the first one. Eddie Dean for $5. I imagine morality as a very successful evolutionary trait. I also imagine immorality as an unsuccessful evolutionary trait. Enough said. And yeah, exactly. That's what I said at the beginning. Conversation with John. I think things that we consider moral tend to promote our survival, promote our flourishing. I think that's why they're built into us. John says, well, God put them there. And I say, no, we developed them on our own through a whole lot of trial and error, unfortunately. I mean, a lot of death and destruction in our past, but nothing we can do about that. But we can take the knowledge that we got from that and become better people and build a better world. And but here's the thing, though, like a lot of that death and destruction in the past was motivated by the same religions that John and other people have: Islam, Christianity, Judaism. Like a lot of death and destruction from that. And now I make a moral decree that, hey, religion should not be used when considering morality, because that happened back there. The Canaanites happened, the Midianites happened, the flood happened. Like, why would we want to bring that back? Why would we want to call that moral and keep on doing that? Because I know this goes against what John said, but from a Christian point of view, tomorrow God could say, hey, grab your swords, go to that village over there. They're worshiping the wrong God. Hey, they're sacrificing their children to Molech. So I want you to go over there, kill them all, including the children. That'll put an end to the sacrifice. From a Christian's point of view, if God gave that command, it's moral to do that. It's moral to skewer children with swords if God commands it. And that there, like I said, you can look at it from one point of view as like, well, it's subjective to the context. God's deciding that this is the moral thing to do, so it's subjective from that point of view. But from the Christian's point of view, you can't, like Sean McDowell the other day on the video between him and his son that Paula G and I reviewed. Sean McDowell was like, I don't see how I can tell you with certainty that it is immoral to torture a baby for fun. And in the video, I said, no, Sean, from your point of view, you can't determine whether that's moral or not because you don't know what the God's command behind it is. If there's no God's command, then it's immoral. But if there is God's command, now it's moral. So the torturing the baby part is completely irrelevant to the decision. The Christian position is just do what God says. Doing what God says is moral. Refusing to do what God says or not doing what God says, that's immoral. That's all the Christian morality boils down to. So when they try to like tug on your heartstrings with like, butchering children or those other things, or like, Sean McDowell torturing a baby for fun, that's just smoke. He's putting up smoke and he's muddying the waters, because ultimately from his point of view, William Lane Craig's point of view with that terrible interview he did with Alex O'Connor, the interview itself was great. Alex did a great job. What William Lane Craig said was fairly despicable. Dark Matter 2525 did a good response to it. Various others have been doing responses to it. But the Christian point of view is just do what God says. And then they will try to dance and say, but we're good people. We think butchering children is wrong and we should be kind and happy to each other. And it's, Sean McDowell says, it's my objective responsibility, my objective duty to treat you objectively well. And no, that's all bullshit. It's bullshit lies. It comes down to just, my God is currently telling me to be nice to you, so I'm being nice to you. Tomorrow, my God might tell me to not be nice to you. He might tell me to slit your throat in your sleep. And if my God says that's what I should do, then that's what I should do. And that's moral. So anyway, I want to do a whole video on that. I'm actually putting the other script right now about, I'm going to call it something inflammatory, like like the lie of Christian objective morality or something like that. So anyway, all right, let's keep going. I want to give everybody a respectful nod for being here for 3 whole hours. You guys are really strong. It's probably past midnight in a lot of places. Too late, Jester. I've already worshipped you. I hope the real God's not offended. I was mistaken. I'm so sorry. But hey, maybe this is exactly what a God would say, and I should worship you. I mean, there's no falsification in religion, so why not? Oh, thanks, Earl. Thanks for guilting the audience into subscribing. On this topic, I now have channel memberships. one tier, 99 cents a month. I just want to give people emojis. I'm not going to probably have much more expensive tiers after that. Oh, it's Alex. It's not running on fumes. It's running on the radiance of God. Yes. I really hope you missed the last 3 hours, Alex, because we've been talking a lot about incest. I'll have to tell you about it. It's been a ride. It's good to see you here, Alex. Also running off the radiance of God. Where does the radiance of God come from? Is it like in a gas form? Is it like God's farts? Am I running off of? I don't know. Okay, keep going. Okay, so yeah, referring to earlier, I hate the term hard drugs. All drugs have negative side effects. I agree. Some more than others. Methamphetamines and Ritalin are chemically identical. One equals awful person, one equals prescription. It's stupid. I agree with that. I was talking about it from, I may use the incorrect terminology because I'm not very familiar with the nuances around it. So I appreciate the being called out on that. I was referring to John's claim that he would just dope up for maximum pleasure and just write out the rest of his life like that. And like any drug, like quote unquote hard drugs. So I'll try not to use that phrase, but any drug long-term maxed out, like just juiced up to the gourd use, I can't imagine can be good for you over time, because all drugs have side effects. Those side effects will eventually build up. Alcohol is the same way. It's not a long-term strategy. So it's like, sure, you'll feel really good until you feel probably pretty bad from the side effects, and then you're gonna have a really hard time if you do permanent damage to your body. So John's like, I'm gonna trade, assuming John's my age, 40, I'm going to trade the next 50 years of my life for a few months of a high and then deal with the consequence. Like that's why I was baffled. I was like, why would you make that trade? Like, why would you get kicked in the balls for a piece of cake? You know? So anyway, thanks for calling me out on that, Earl. Appreciate that. Keep on going. Chrysolazar. I'll just call you Czar, unless you want to call in and tell me how to pronounce your name. Great job, Eric. I've never seen such extreme patience. Wow, I tip my hat and salute you. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm very new to this street epistemology stuff and even like doing online calls. My patience is fairly high, but I mean, who knows? Maybe in 10, 15 more years of this, I might be, my patience might have been wilted down to nothing. But yeah. And losing your patience is fun. It's good entertainment. Like I've been thinking about the line recently. It's like, we all have different styles. I mean, obviously, Matt has his, Forrest has his, Jimmy has his, I have mine. I love the line because we all come together and it's like WWE. Like we all get distinct personalities. Some of us are like the I don't want to say like, baby faces versus heels or anything like that, but like we all have our personality, all of our functions, and people come for the spectacle of the conversation. And it is a show. We want it to be entertaining. I'm very different here in this context than I am on the line. And yeah, I think the line, it's like I said, it's fun to go watch. Everybody comes and they cheer for their people and all that. So yeah, I like that. It's quite fun. Yep, right there. Immoral must have a certain goal. I mean, it's inescapable because you can't derive an ought from an is, a la Hume. So if you don't have a goal, you can't declare something should be a certain way. Like for instance, it is the case that in nature, when a lion takes over a pride, he kills all the cubs. That is a fact that happens in nature. Does that mean that we ought to, when a new stepfather moves into a home, kill all the children to eventually be replaced by his offspring? No, you can't derive that ought from that is. So yeah, we need goals. My goals are human flourishing. It's everything that has gotten us this far, and I think is going to keep us going further. And we've gotten this far in spite of religion. We've gotten this far in spite of Christianity and Islam and Judaism and all the bullshit there. Like we don't need it. Could be argued that we could have needed it in the past. Like religion might have given us the social cohesion, the unity, having an authority figure, even imaginary, like directed us and drove us to survive. It could be argued that religion was critical for our evolution and our survival. But if that is the case, I don't think that's the case now. I think we can get by just fine without it. We have secular moral systems. John, don't take offense, but I think my moral system is superior to yours because mine involves a whole lot more thinking. I think that we've reached a level of development as a species where we don't need this anymore. We don't need religion. We can think. We have long thousands of years of historical documents, and we have perfect record, not perfect record keeping, but record keeping now that is just phenomenal. We record everything. We can look back and see how actions affect consequences and how those consequences affect the world, and we can form our goals and we can make much more informed decisions about everything. We don't need religion anymore. We just don't. It's an anchor around our necks, and we need to cut that chain. Jonathan, oh shit, hi Eric, how are you? I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. It was an interesting day. Before I came on and I did this stream, I worked. I was installing ceramic tile in a bathroom in a building on my property. So I was doing that for like 6 hours today, and I came in here and I was like, "Oh God, I'm so tired." But once the conversation got going, my brain turned on. It was all good. So, but anyway, that's my answer. I'm doing fine. Yeah, divine command theory. It's right there, and that's exactly what John is advocating. Yeah, and there are Christians that are brave enough and willing enough to say, "Hey, I don't think all of God's commands were moral," or they'll just simply sidestep it and say, "I don't think those stories were true," which is fine. I mean, good for them. But yeah, divine command theory. It's basically all it is. It's an unthinking. I'm going to just simply do what I'm told, and that's moral. It's not just moral; it's objectively moral. Yeah, Jonathan, I stream. So when I do stream, it's on Wednesdays at 6:30. I don't necessarily stream every week. I just sometimes can't, or I'm just too tired, or all that. But I'm going to try to stream at least once, twice a month on Wednesdays. So 6:30 Pacific Standard Time. Okay, yours spared. Yours. And tell you what, Alex, go. I'll send you the link after the show. But I'll show you the conversation that this whole thing was based off of. But anyway, I had a conversation with a guy named John. Matt and I had a conversation with a guy named John on Sunday. I did this stream tonight to review that conversation, but then John called in and we had another conversation. So that's how it went. Eddie Dean. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. Somebody earlier did this and I totally missed it. All right, hold on. I'm going to do Eddie Dean first. So Eddie Dean, thank you so much for gifting some memberships. We have memberships given to Taos, Taos, Tristan Hallbrock, Kalisa himself, and Paul D, Pavld. All right, and then just a little fool, you're already a member. And then let me go back in time. Somebody else did a gift, I think, and I totally missed it. And I want to make sure I get it. Oh, damn it, the history's gone. Oh, hold on. Gonna find it. I have the StreamYard history here. Wow, you guys were chatty during all that. I totally missed all of this because I was focused on John. Where is it? Like, can't this like hide, or can I like see comments? I don't see it at all. Come on. Scroll up, damn you. Okay, well, I'll find it. Whoever gifted subs earlier, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Oh, there it is. Found it. I killed Earl. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. I can't see the list of people who got the subs or the memberships off of that, but yeah, thank you so much for doing that. Appreciate it. I will take that $5 and buy most of a latte up here in Seattle because it's so fucking expensive. All right, let's get to the end here. It's nearly done. Then I'll let you guys go to bed. You'll have my permission to go to bed here in just a few moments. Just keep on sticking with me. Ryan Murphy, have I met Matt? I'm assuming you mean Matt Dillahunty. Yes, I met him in person last month. I went down to Austin, Texas for the solar eclipse because Matt's place happened to be right in the totality zone going through Austin. So I made an off comment on a previous episode of The Line of the Sunday show. I said, I think it was like in a super chat. I was like, hey, I wanted to come down for the eclipse, but it's really expensive to get down there. And it was. The plane ticket wasn't cheap and hotels were terrible. I said, tell you what, it was like the whole thing was a joke. And I was like, tell you what, I'll come the week after. We'll just have Jimmy like hold up a soccer ball up to the sun for a few minutes, and that'll be the same thing. And then right there on the air, Matt's like, just come stay with me in Arden for a couple days. So that's what I did. So yeah, went down there. I stayed in their guest room. I got to see their snake and reptile operation. They showed me like all the stuff, and it was really awesome. Yeah, really, really good stuff. So there's your answer. Yes, I did. He was a really cool guy, really fun. Oh, and Forrest Valkai, the first night I was there, Forrest Valkai came over, and Matt, Arden, Forrest, and I, we played like board games and drank really like esoteric like root beers, like it's brands never heard of, like Texas only brands. Yeah, so that was really, really fun. Earl, wrapping up our conversation. Agreed. My metric is injection. If you want to do drugs and stay alive, don't inject them, but it is possible to be long-term functional user. Okay. Cool. Keep on going. Matt is a hammer, yours is a scalpel. I mean, I can agree with that statement. We all have our strengths and our weaknesses, and yeah, you can't build a house with just a hammer. You can't, butcher a cow with just a butter knife. You need different things. So yeah, we all have our strengths, and that's another thing too. Like with the line, and I've said this many times. Like when I deconverted, one of the first people I was exposed to online atheist content was Matt and the rest of the old school atheists, the OG atheist experience crew. And each one of them had a strength. Each one of them gave me something I needed. Matt showed me that religious ideas can be torn down and demolished mercilessly. They aren't sacred. Tracy showed me kind of logical, precise, and articulate ways to approach conversations. And, Jeff D, Russell Glassier, all the other folks, Don Baker, they all had their strengths. And I looked at that and I was like, these are all great things. And I can imagine now that, new deconverts, new people that are new to the scene, they need something at that time. Some people need to see a Matt Dillahunty in action. Some other people need to see a Forrest Valkai in action. Some people need to see Apologia in action. And I hope maybe, people tune in and go, I want to see what Eric has to say because I appreciate what he has to say. So hopefully I can get to that point. But anyway, okay, we're nearly there. I'm going to start skipping comments from people that have already talked. Earl dropped a pun. Oops, hope you enjoy it a latte. I'll see myself out. Yeah. I used to work at Starbucks, and that was definitely something we said. Thanks a latte. Yeah. All right, we're done. Thank you, I'll kill Earl. Oh, beheaded kamikaze. Hey, Eric, good to see you. Hey, beheaded. You'll come in at like the final moments of the stream, but it is good to see you. Thank you so much for stopping by. Yeah, going to sleep. All right, folks. Thank you so much. Peace out. I should probably cue up the ending music because I never do it right. I got to do the overlay. And then if I tell the music to play, it's going to just pick up where it was. Who cares? Let's go. Good night.